Hello and welcome to Flix and Chill with me, Luke. This week I have a very special guest on my show. I'm supposed to believe he's a doctor, so let's ask him about that. Nick is here, so Nick, take it away and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, not a doctor. I just play one on TV.
Allegedly.
I'm good. Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun. I'm very looking forward to it.
No,
So,
same. I've been listening to you on various other podcasts for a while, so I'm like, he always seems, nice, cheerful, all that. So like, I need to have him on at some point, and finally, it happened. So I'm appreciative of you coming here. So thank you so much.
well, we're going to see if I can keep up that streak because it's super early in the morning and I'm still waiting for the drugs to take effect. So,
Fair. So you are obviously we know each other from Sith Pop, and you love movies. You love all the TV shows, all the nerdy stuff, which is great. But
absolutely.
besides that, what makes Nick Nick? Like, for example, do you have any other hobbies besides movies, TV shows, having your own podcast, all that, and any other hobbies? Or do you have any extra time on top of all the things you do?
No. The
Yeah.
answer to that question is I have three kids
Wow.
and it's pretty much full-time job just taking care of them and between me and my wife just running around from activity to activity, there really isn't a whole lot of time for anything else, which kind of is what makes movies so great because, you know, they're just 2 hour slice of life
Hmm.
moments where you go, you know what, I've got 2 hours. I don't have to go anywhere or do anything. I could just watch something. I put the kids to bed,
Hmm.
pop on a movie. One of my favorite things to do is go to the theater.
Yeah.
I love doing that, and I really appreciated Movie Pass when it came out for
Hmm.
the brief time that we had it. But I like how it it really kind of did shake up the industry the way that
Hmm.
they said they wanted to, which I mean, if you listen to what was it, Mitch Lowe, I don't really buy what he was selling, but
Hmm.
it did it because now I have the AMC list, and you know, my wife is one of those early to bed people, so the kids go to bed about 20 minutes after that she goes to bed, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the movies and see a movie that I wouldn't be able to normally see because
Hmm.
it's the middle of the week or something like that. And so I'll usually go to like a late show, like a 9:30, sometimes 10 o'clock. Although age has been catching up to me, and I did was it Interstellar a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and
nice.
it started at 10:30, so that means with 20-30 minutes of trailers, it really didn't start till 11, and that movie's 3 hours long. So
Yep.
I got home at like 2:30 in the morning and I was just so tired at work the next day. I'm like, I don't think I can do that anymore. It's
I
too much.
believe it. Oh, that's. But how great was that re-release, that 10 year anniversary re-release?
It was so good. And we saw it in IMAX. And
Oh,
this
jealous.
was my first time seeing it on the big screen.
Oh,
Because,
really?
yes, my middle child, my daughter Lily, she was born 10 years ago as well. So
Nice.
I missed Interstellar when it came to theaters because in it came out in November.
Hmm.
We decided to see Big Hero 6 together instead, and I was like, I'll go see Interstellar like after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And Lily wasn't due until like the end of December, but she came early.
Hmm.
So instead of like that weekend, I had plans to go see Interstellar with friends from work, but then those just got canceled. So I looked at Lily and I'm like, I'm going to see Interstellar tonight. She goes, oh, cool. And I'm like, it's as old as you are. And she's just like, cool. That was great.
Nice. So you said you have three kids. So what are their ages? So one of them is obviously 10, just turned
Yep.
10. Yep.
Just turned 10 last 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
The oldest one is 12. She turned 12 in September and started middle school this year. So that's
Ooh.
been a wild ride because
Hmm.
I don't know if you know this, but middle schoolers suck. So, so I am learning all about what middle school boys are like and how obnoxious they are. And I'm just like, yeah, I know they are pretty obnoxious, but like
Hmm.
you just can't deal. So I have to kind of listen to. her get
Yep.
upset about it all the time. But and then my youngest is 6. He's turning into a cool little dude. Like he
Nice.
just started like over the summer we introduced, I mean, he started playing video games a while back because we have the Switch,
Hmm.
and there's some games that are really good for him. Like he got really into Kirby the Forgotten Land when he got it for Christmas last year. But then over the summer, I showed him Kingdom Hearts for the first time,
Oh, nice.
and he fell in love with it. He
Hmm.
played all summer long. We played both all 3 games plus Birth by Sleep because I have the PS4 remaster collection,
Hmm.
and we played all the games together. But by the time we got to 3, he was so done with me, like he didn't want to wait at all. He turned it on and played the whole thing almost I time, and he beat the whole game by himself. And now he's playing through again. He just started 2 the other day, and I'm like, oh, we're just going back through. Okay, go for it.
Nice.
He loves it.
So he's
So
turning into like a little gamer then.
he is turning into a little gamer, although he seems to be super hyper fixated on just this series at the
I
moment.
see. I
I'm
see.
like, he's getting a couple games for Christmas, so I'm like, well, hope maybe this will knock him out of his I can only play this one funk.
Hmm. Hmm. No, that sounds
So yeah,
so
but hey,
cool.
it's a good series to play and to enjoy.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. Like 3 kids, I cannot even imagine that amount of. You probably don't have enough, well, first of all, sleep, but also not enough quiet, I would imagine, because I
Yeah,
have no kids, but my sister has 2 boys, right?
yeah.
They're 8 and 5. And every once in a while when I Skype with them, it's just the amount of noise. I love them both. Like, don't get me wrong, but kids are loud.
They are.
So,
Yeah. Like
like,
I feel like I always have to disclaim it like, yes, I
mhm,
actually like my kids. They
mhm,
are they are great. I love them a lot. They're super fun most of the time.
yes.
But like if I don't give that disclaimer up front, my wife's always going like, it really sounds like you hate the kids, right? Because I'm always doing bits on them. I'm always throwing them under the bus. I'm telling
Hmm.
them about all their people about their annoying habits. Because they
Hmm.
do. They're kids. They have annoying habits. They're loud. They're obnoxious. They ask stupid questions. They don't listen. They're the
Hmm.
worst. But they're not always the worst.
Exactly. Well, like once upon a time, there's this like a brief flash of brilliance, and there's like a brief
Hmm.
flash of like, oh, this is so nice to be like a parent, and then they
Yeah.
do something completely different. We're like, why did I have you? Like, why do you
Yeah.
exist? Like,
What
oh,
was I
it's my
thinking?
fault. It's my fault. It's a yeah.
Well, we tell people if we had had Oliver first,
Hmm.
we would have only had one kid. Like, holy crap, boys, man.
Hmm.
It's so wild. And it's so funny because like I talk to some people who have just boys and they're just like, "Oh, boys are so great." I'm like, "That's because you don't know how great girls are. They are so much better than boys.
Are
They
they?
they play quietly.
Hmm.
They do different things. They're so different in terms of just general demeanor. Now I'm starting to see how teenage girls are not as great, but I
Okay.
also don't have teenage boys yet, so I don't know what Oliver's going to be like. But as we mentioned earlier, middle school boys suck. So I can only
Yeah.
imagine it's not going to get better. So, but
Like.
yeah, the kids, they're so different. Like
Hmm.
Oliver is so smart
Hmm.
compared to his sisters at this age, like
Yeah.
book smart. Like
Hmm.
he saw this show on Netflix called Number Blocks, and he's doing math at like 5 years old, just like multiplication math. And his
Nice.
sister, who was in 3rd grade at the time, is learning the same thing, and he's doing her homework with her. I'm like, this is wild because the girls they never were that academically inclined. They progressed where they needed to at
Hmm.
the appropriate age level, but he's just like blowing them away like 3 years prior. But at the same time, he is like a little chaos machine and cannot sit still, cannot calm down, cannot, be cool. Like he is
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
all impulse 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Whereas the girls, they sit, they think, I want to say they use common sense, but like they're whatever common sense is for their age range because they try. me insane how often they'll do the dumbest of things, but they just are two different, completely weird creatures
Hmm.
when you compare the two. It's just so nuts.
No, yeah, I get it. Like, well, again, I don't have kids, but I've been around my sister's kids a lot. Again, two boys. So I don't have to tell you. And when you say they are energetic, they are loud, they just do. They don't really, like, they are smart, I think, but they don't really think. They just do.
They
And
don't.
that's their kind of like, shtick. It's like, oh yeah, like they also like, if they sit in silence and like maybe draw for a bit, then yeah, you get like 20 minutes, 30 minutes of like peace. And then
Mhm.
they're done with drawing. It's like, okay, let's throw this random stuff across the room and let's like, let's just oh, you know what, yeah, we should try to catch each other. We should try to fight. Let's go. And it's just like,
Oh my God.
yes.
Yes, keeping Oliver alive when he first learned how to walk was like a full-time job on its own because
Mm,
this kid was daredevil extraordinaire. Like the girls, when I would change them, when I would change their diaper, um, once they were walking or
mhm.
standing, I'd stand them up and I'd be like, "Jump to me from the changing table." And I mean, I'm right there. It's literally not even a jump,
Yeah,
and they would refuse.
yeah.
Oliver, he's not even waiting for me to be there. Like you cannot leave Oliver by a changing table. He's just like, I'm going.
He's like,
Yeah.
bye.
And I have to like dive to catch him. Like, oh my God, don't do that. He's almost fallen downstairs. He did fall down several stairs. We had to take him to the emergency room once
Ooh.
because he shoved the gate so hard that it went through the door frame and then he slid down the door on the gate. And we had to take him to the emergency room just to be on a concussion watch because he threw up shortly after that. We're like, oh no.
Oh.
So you learn a whole new, like, two kids in, you think we'd be good at this, but no, two kids in doesn't do nothing when you have a boy for the first time.
That seems wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Look, hopefully he's all fine now. Like, hopefully,
Oh yeah, he's good.
concussion,
This
that's been
was
a
this
long
was
time
years and
ago.
years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah. I reckon. No, but I remember, like, I was the same. Like, when you say, oh, he doesn't even, wait for you to be there, he just jumps and or does stuff. I remember once we were moving, and I had this like tricycle, and I must have been like 5, 6, and we lived in this like a tower house, an eighth floor, right? And there was
Mm.
there we had an elevator. But for you to reach the elevator, you had to go down a level, right? And I had my tricycle and I was riding around on this like, hallway and there were the stairs down. And, my 5, 6 year old brilliant mind thought, wouldn't it be fun to try if my tricycle on with me can go down those stairs? No, it wasn't fun. I tried it and I was just tumbling down the stairs with a tricycle. I still remember that's one of my like earliest memories, just being a dumbass, be like, yeah, this sounds like something I could definitely do. Physics, don't concern me. Nope.
Yeah,
So yeah,
trauma has a weird
boys.
effect on people's memories.
Yeah, exactly. And again, boys, they're like, yeah, this sounds like something I can easily do. Let's do it. And then they, suffer the consequences later. I'm like, oh, okay.
Jump off the roof, of course they'll be fine.
Oh, like I almost actually died, and like that was another shtick. But yeah, no, no, that was just again, boys are wild. Like, and I know because I used to be. Well, I'm still a boy, but I used to be a very tiny boy.
I used to be one.
Times have changed. Okay, it's not been kind to me.
Mrs. Doubtfire. Oh, I don't
Yes,
work well with the males because I used to be one.
yes. Oh, first day as a woman, and my breasts are already on fire. Just that's a great movie.
It sure is.
So, where are you actually based? Like a city or
I am
state?
in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. I have a feeling they are second, maybe third person from Pennsylvania. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there actually are a few of us in Pennsylvania, and at least in Sif Pop. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
Robert's here too.
I was gonna say I know Robert for sure because he is in Philly or very near Philly. So like I knew that.
Harrisburg
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
And
Yeah, he actually lives maybe about an hour away from where I went to college, which is
okay.
about 2 hours away from where I live now. So like he's
Hmm.
about halfway between.
Hmm.
So I know exactly where he lives because I used to live in that area.
So Robert, that's for you. I know, Nick knows where you live.
Yeah.
Just
Nick knows where you live, Robert.
yes, be careful. No, so if I were to ask you, I'm going there for a week. I'm interested what you're gonna say. What would you recommend me to see? Where would you take me to, for us to eat? Is there something that's truly worth seeing?
Yeah, it's called New York City. It's great because we're only like 2 hours away from New York. So if we want to do anything, and we're only about an hour and a half out of Philly, it's
Hmm.
really only like an hour out of Philly, but freaking traffic, man.
Yep, yep.
It's depending on what time of day you go. You
Hmm.
could be sitting there for 2 hours on the stupid Schuylkill. But the in my area specifically, there
Hmm.
is plenty to do, but nothing like site worthy. Like we have downtown Bethlehem, which is starting to gentrify a bit and become a little bit nicer. They've got like more quaint shops and towns. They do festivals and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, Lots of places around us do fun festivals, like up in I don't even remember, but I always forget the name. Up in one of like maybe about 20 minutes north of where I live, they had a Krampus Fest a couple weeks
Oh,
ago.
nice.
We were gonna go to that, but then we saw that they actually charge admission for that one, so we were like, oh, maybe not. Five kids and even a $10 admission with five kids becomes a very expensive day. So we're like,
Hmm.
no, we're gonna skip that one. But they do like bacon fests and they do strawberry festivals. Bethlehem has I forget what they call it, but it's a clever pun, but it's essentially like in, uh have you ever done like a chocolate walk where you go to different shops and they hand out chocolate?
I don't think we have that here, to be honest.
Okay.
I know what you mean,
Well,
but
there's a place here that does stuff like that where
okay.
a bunch of local shops take part in a fun day where it's like people come to their stores. They kind of there's like a map. You go to different places. They hand out a little free thing for you.
Hmm.
But Bethlehem does a booze one where it's
Oh,
like different liquors, and so
okay.
it's kind of like a tasting
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
situation. So Bethlehem does one of those. I've been meaning to take Julie to that because
Hmm.
she's like I married a 70-year-old man essentially because she likes a scotch that's old enough to order its own scotch.
Oh,
And
nice.
she sits there and she sips it at night. She'll just have herself like she'll make herself fancy drinks or not fancy drinks, but like just like basic like bourbon with a thing with ice. Like that's it.
What are her
And
favorite brands? If I can ask, if I can interrupt shortly, what are her favorite
oh
brands?
geez, uh,
Because you said
she
Scotch, so like,
she she likes see, I'm not an alcohol guy, so I'm bad
that's
at
fine.
this. But she likes Four Roses, which I don't think is Scotch. I think that's
Don't
something else.
never heard of it.
Whiskey, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, she likes that. I got her a buddy of mine that I worked with recommended it for me one year when I was looking for
Hmm.
Christmas ideas for her,
Hmm.
and she likes that. She likes Tanqueray gin.
Okay.
Um, but she grew up with a dad who is like the most frugal of frugal people. We were just at his house for Lily's birthday, and he's like, "Don't throw those paper plates away. I'm gonna wash them and reuse them." So
Oh,
so she's also super cool with just buying the cheap stuff.
I see.
I got her a bottle of the Macallan 12 or something
Decent.
for Christmas a couple years ago. It's like $100 bottle of I'm so bad. Please, listeners of this fine program, do not make fun of me for this, but I think it's scotch. It might be bourbon. I don't know if those are the same thing.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. But it's a fancy bottle of booze.
Okay.
And she loved it. Hasn't touched it though because the price of it makes her go, I don't feel like I should be wasting it. Like
Or
it's
is
too
she
expensive to drink.
is she one of those like maybe she's saving it for a special occasion? Like,
No,
I'm gonna open it only when this happens, or
I mean,
like,
yeah, if you wanna say if that makes you feel better, my wife is not that kind of person. She's just looking at it from a dollars and cents perspective. I'm just like, Julie,
uh,
we've already bought it.
I
It's
was gonna
paid
say
for.
it's
You
there to
might
be
as well drink
enjoyed.
it and enjoy it.
Yes,
Like,
yes, it's there to
I
be
feel like it's too
enjoyed.
much.
It's just okay.
He's
No,
weird.
I see. I know what you mean because I know people like that. Like, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, I always try to tell them, but the stuff is there to be enjoyed, right?
Yeah.
Money is
Exactly.
money is not the purpose. Money is, the way how you get to your purpose, like whatever that purpose is. So,
Yeah.
like, it's supposed to be enjoyed. Obviously, you need to save a bit every once in a while,
Hmm.
but you don't want to be the richest corpse in a cemetery.
Exactly, exactly. She'll tap into it one day. I mean, unless she's lying to me and she's like doesn't want to hurt my feelings, like, yeah, no, I actually really don't like this brand. But
Maybe.
she I think she's had had some once because I
Okay.
made her. I
Mm-hmm.
opened it up and we both had some. And then I've served it to my dad when he came to visit once. 'Cause my parents they live in California,
Oh, nice.
so we don't see them all that often.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but other than that, it is sitting there and it is like pretty much untouched,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only I guess it's only getting better with age. I don't know how it works.
Unfortunately
but,
for
but yeah.
Scotch, for whiskeys, it doesn't work like that anymore. Once it's bottled, it's bottled. It's never
Yeah.
gonna get better. But no, Scotch whiskeys are nice. Obviously, I'm slightly biased because I live in Scotland. So,
Oh, there you
I
go.
have had my fair share of certain whiskeys, and I might have about 9 or 10 bottles downstairs. So
Nice.
yeah, like look, I'm not an alcoholic. But like when somebody
But you play one
comes
on
over,
TV?
yes. When somebody comes over and they look at my wee bar or tiny bar, they're like, "Oh, can we try this one?" I was like, "Sure." So I crack open it and like we have it. And it's usually quite nice. So,
Well, not
but
to jump too far ahead,
tell me.
what kind of a scotch would you recommend? Because I'm always looking for ideas of something that's good for to get her as a gift.
See, the thing is, it's very hard. It's kind of like what kind of coffee I would recommend. I don't know her palate. Because there's not just one coffee. There's not such
70-year-old man.
yeah. Because like some people, well, some 70-year-old men love smoky whiskeys. That's like
Hmm.
very, for me, very harsh to drink. So I don't really like that. They're called like PT whiskeys, and they're like basically smoked, actually like with actual smoke or like a little stored in like a barrels that were properly like smoked, and they
Hmm.
get that heavy flavor, and that's an acquired taste I don't have. But some
Mm.
70-year-old men might have that.
She
Uh,
she her big thing is she doesn't like sweet.
okay.
She's a dark chocolate girl.
Okay.
She doesn't enjoy things that are overly sweet or saccharine. When she drinks her coffee, she
Hmm.
drinks it like I like my women, dark.
Okay.
But
Nice.
she tends to like things that have a little bit more flavor, just as long
Hmm.
as it's not like a super sweet flavor.
What I would try, so if she is that kind of frugal person, and this one, at least here, is not that expensive, but it's actually quite nice. There is a blend of three malt whiskeys called Monkey Shoulder. I don't know if you ever heard of it, or maybe
No.
you guys have it there. And it's a blend of three Scotch whiskeys. So usually I'm against blends. I'm usually like, single malt kind of guy, but this
Hmm.
one is, using actually like three quality whiskeys already. And it's very nice to drink, very easy to drink.
Okay.
It might not be like, again, I don't know your wife, your 70-year-old man wife. So I don't, but it might be too simple for her maybe, or maybe delicious. But yeah, that's usually what I would recommend to many people if they are not sure, because it's kind of easy whiskey to drink.
Okay.
Quite pleasant.
I'll definitely try it out. I just wrote it down. It's always something new to try.
Exactly. But I did interrupt you. So like, and what about some food, like local food there? Like, what? Because I don't remember Phil or like Pennsylvania being. Is Pennsylvania known for a specific thing? Like, do you guys have?
Hmm.
Oh yeah, you come here, you need to try this thing.
I mean, we're the land of beer and marshmallow peeps. We
Mm.
have a local brewery. They make Yingling, which is like the big like that's sold all over. People seem to like Yingling
Never heard of
lager.
it. What is that?
Really,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like a basic lager. It's
Okay.
pretty decent taste. I also not a beer guy.
Fair.
But yeah, it's a decent taste. I always laugh. We have this old joke when I was growing up working at the local Kmart. Um, my buddy worked at the pizzeria right in the same plaza.
Hmm.
Still my favorite pizzeria to this day. Go there. Just went there for Lily's birthday party. They supplied us with the pizza.
Nice.
But guy comes in while
Hmm.
I'm sitting there on my break, hanging out with my friend, and a guy comes in and goes, "You have that Chinese beer?" And we're like, "I'm sorry, like what? Do you have a brand in mind?" He goes, "Yeah, that Yingling." And we're like, "Oh no." Actually, sir, that is bottled right here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, okay.
Uh, but so yeah, we've got that, and the Peeps factory is actually right in our town. So,
Mm.
uh, if you have ever had a marshmallow peep, which is could be considered a hot take, I guess, which
Okay.
we could get to later. But yeah, I love Peeps made right here
Hmm.
in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and people hate them. So I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, that I mean, cuisine wise, I mean, not really. I We've got some decent restaurants, but I don't think we're really known for anything
Hmm.
like we're not like New York where you got to have a slice of pizza in New York. Sorry, Mike, it's not Chicago, it's New York.
Hmm.
Yeah. We have that fight a lot. Um
Are those the ones? The marshmallow pea? Oh, never mind. It's not zooming. Because I've never actually I've never heard of marshmallow peeps. So I'm like, I had to Google
Really?
what they are. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know what marshmallow is.
they're like little chicks.
Yep.
They're shaped like little chickens, and they also have rabbits, and they also do
Okay.
holiday ones.
Okay. Okay.
Right in, don't talk into the microphone, Nick. I'm sitting in the in my closet. This is where we keep
Oh,
the
nice.
Christmas presents. So like
Okay.
this is some snowman peeps.
Hmm.
So yeah, like they're marshmallows. They're covered in sugar, and they have
Of
but
course.
like it's a very sweet treat. But it's a marshmallow that has a shape, and like the sugar is a little gritty, so it kind of contrasts with the chewy marshmallow
Hmm.
and keeps it from sticking to everything. And it's just something that we've always had growing up, and I think they're delicious. Like I actually won a peeps eating contest once at work
Wait,
because
really? How many? What was the time scale, and how many did you manage to?
with within a minute, so
Okay.
that the chicks came in packs of they were like about yay big. It was like a sleeve, three sleeves
Hmm.
of five.
Okay.
So 15 total in the
Yep.
pack.
Yep.
I went through two whole sleeves and one extra in a minute.
So
Um,
11?
11 total.
Okay.
And the guy who I was going up against did 10. And
Oh.
it was rough. Like I got that last one in there just in time because I mean, choking hazard extreme. Don't try this at home, kids.
Yep.
They get a little dense once you start putting more than one in there, so chewing them and swallowing them is difficult, but it's yeah, we they did a it was right around Easter time they did a peeps eating contest and I
Hmm.
won and yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we're good.
It sounds like a great achievement, and 11 is a that's a nice, formidable score, really. Damn.
Yeah, it was not pleasant. You one would think not something you ever want to do again. Probably dealt with peeps, but no, I keep eating them every year.
And that's what I call a dedication.
Right. But yeah, if you came to town, I would most likely schedule something to go, like we'd go to New York for the day, or we'd go to Philly for the day. Like I would show you some stuff there because
Mhm.
there's better stuff. It's just better stuff.
I always like those answers when I ask people, this specific question, and some of them are like you, like, yeah, if you were to come here, we go to this place like two
Yeah,
hours from here because here there's nothing. And I'm like, okay, thanks for the honesty.
yeah. We'd go like I go to the movies a lot. We go
Hmm.
to like Red Robin, the restaurant. Like
Hmm.
we stick within our limits because like there's not a ton really to do, but also
Yeah.
like when you got three kids, you're looking for free. So maybe in let's see, Oliver's six now, so in 12 years, when they're hopefully all out of the house, me and my wife will start to discover what
Yep.
Allentown has to offer.
You're gonna be like, oh, this has been here for the entire time. How did we not
Right?
not know about this establishment? And just yep. hmm
That's
So
what it is.
yeah, you're hoping to be one of those like empty nesters, like in about 12 years. Is three the limit? No more kids
Yeah.
after.
Well, with the way the economy's going, never.
Yes.
They're
Yeah,
gonna live
yeah.
with us forever.
I thought you're gonna say in this economy, fourth child is not possible.
Yeah, no, that decision was actually made going on 2 years ago now.
Mm.
It's not possible, and also physically no longer possible.
Oh, okay. I see what it
We
is. I see what
we
it
took care of that.
is. Fair. Okay, that sounds like fun. That sounds like fun. I like see like I've never been to any of America, really. So I would
Okay.
love to visit like at some point and not just the one, not just like, like the stereotypical like California or New York, just I would like to visit more than just that. And I find fascinating how each state it's own state. It's its own like
Yeah.
you have so like you're all Americans, but the California people in California are different, people in Pennsylvania are different, people in
Yeah.
Florida are different, and I found that concept so wild. Just
Yeah. We're like a bunch of little countries that all consider ourselves the same country. It's
yep, yep.
interesting.
hmm
Regionally, we are like I'm in the Northeast, so like there's a way about us in the Northeast, but like it's funny. Pennsylvania is such a big state. You go to like the Pittsburgh area,
hmm
and they're so different. Like just the way that they're more almost Midwest, or not Midwestern, but like
hmm
just central
yeah.
based, and like that like middle of the state. We joke and call it Pennsyltucky because you got people who will say y'all like like they're from the South, and we're like, we're in Pennsylvania, calm down. Like
Hey,
so
cowboy.
yeah, right. It's so weird. Like it's and Pennsylvania is one of the bigger states, so
Hmm
you can get that like it's wild. Just my parents moved down to Texas when I was in college, and
mm.
just the vast difference between living in Texas for the summer and living up here is just crazy. Like so much more space. Everything is big. Like they build everything big. Like it's
Well,
crazy. Like
everything is
doorways.
bigger than in Texas, right?
Everything's bigger in
In
Texas. Yeah, no, they were not joking when they said that.
hmm
Everything is bigger in Texas because apparently they thought giants were living there. Like I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting experience. If you ever were to come, yeah, plan it for like a month and try
Yeah.
and hit as many big places as possible.
And that's kind of the my hope and kind of a goal, hopefully. Like, like yeah, it wouldn't be just like 1 week or 2 weeks. I would really want at least a month and visit this
Yeah.
place, this place, this place, this place, that all that. Before we move to this or that, last question about where you live. How accurate the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is as far as like how people are in Pennsylvania? Like
I
because like
mean,
we just started season 8 and those are some horrible people. So I'm like I understand not everybody's gonna be like that in Philadelphia, but like is there any truth to or like do you feel like do you see your fellow people represented well or accurately?
unfortunately, the non-disclosure agreement that I signed
Okay.
when moving to Pennsylvania has prevented me from speaking ill of it. Now, yeah, no, it is okay. It's Always Sunny is heightened.
It is.
However,
It is.
that is exactly how I picture people who
Mhm.
are Philadelphia Eagles fans. Like
Ah,
they
shots
get
fired.
so awful. They are the worst. Like I always joked because we live the closer we live to Philly, the worse it got.
hmm
But a team who has notoriously not been great. However, they've gotten better in the past few years.
Okay.
Um well, at this point it's been like a decade since they've been actually pretty decent. But like a team that is in the last 10 years a much better team. However, 20, 30, 40 years ago, you would think they had a record like today when
Yeah.
they had no record at all. Like this is
Okay.
a team that only won its first Super Bowl like ago, 15 years ago maybe at this point. So like they had no Super Bowl for the longest time, but you would think that they won every single one of them. Like
Ah,
they are the best team you have ever. They're the best every year. It's so funny. My brother-in-law is a huge diehard Eagle fan. We will.
hmm.
I'll write it down. I'll do bits on him. I'm
Yeah,
like, we're gonna see him today. This is what we're gonna get. They're going all the way this year. Like we do Eagles fan bingo where they're going all the way this year. They're a much better team. That
yep,
this is gonna happen. Like what we didn't mean to like, we screwed up that one game, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Like
yep,
we're going to the playoffs, we're gonna win the Super Bowl. And then when the Super Bowl eventually comes and goes and they haven't been in it, well, this is the reason why, and that was it. Like it's so funny. Now, granted, that's a lot of sports teams in general. Fans of sports,
hmm,
when they get to be diehards, they really do. But the one thing I will give they are loyal. They are
okay,
so loyal to their team. It is a culture in which they respect that team so freaking much, regardless of whether they're win or lose. And I respect that. I am a Giants fan, so
hmm,
there's that also. Giants and Eagles are like the oldest rivalry in the NFL.
okay.
And my team sucks so hard. we, we haven't. I told my daughter, my oldest daughter, the year she was born was the last time they won the Super Bowl. I'm like, it looks like you're a jinx, kid.
She must have been
But
happy.
she's so thrilled. But I mean, they suck. They suck so bad.
Hmm.
But I will never not be a Giants fan. Like you're never gonna see me like there's loyalty where you are obsessed with your team and you think that they're going to be the best every year, even though they've proven to you time and time again that they are not.
Yep,
And then there's loyalty where no matter how bad they suck, you'll still love them, but you will not be afraid to tell people, yeah, no, they're the worst. Like I told Mike a couple weeks ago, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that they just let a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids play on the team this year because they're terrible. There's no like, have these people ever played football before? They're the worst. But
yeah.
Philadelphia fans, I will give them the credit. They are incredibly loyal.
So they are
So I mean,
loyal,
yeah.
but so what are you saying? They are loyal, but a bit awful people. Like because of it's always
Ah,
sunny.
there
It's kind of like.
there's a funny saying
Uh-huh.
where people on the East Coast will be complete assholes to you, but they'll help. So like there's the old like if you broke down on the side of the road in the East Coast
Yep.
and got a flat tire,
Hmm.
someone from the East Coast would get out of their car. They're like, "What are you doing? You're doing that all wrong. You got a flat tire here." They'll then shove you out of the way, fix your tire, and send you on your way.
Yeah.
Whereas, like on the West Coast, they'll see it and they'll be the nicest people in the world. They'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Oh, I wish I could help."
Hmm.
And they'll go about their way. So, like, they'll be polite, but they won't do anything for you. But here, we'll do it for you, but you better have a thick skin because we're gonna tell you you're an idiot.
But yeah, so you're gonna bitch about it, but you're gonna
Yeah.
help. You're gonna okay. I
Yeah.
get it. I get it.
It's kind of like that's it's an old like what's the word? Not like it's not colloquialism, but it's just like it's one of those old like things
Like
that people say
adages.
like this adage. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's an old adage that just that's how we are here on the East Coast. And so if you're not used to it, yeah, we kind of seem like we're assholes, but like we're
So
your assholes.
would you qualify classify yourself as one of them then? Because you were using like VR and I'm like, okay, so do
Yeah,
you
I
group
mean I'm
yourself?
an East Coaster. I
Okay.
No, I mean we lived in Philly. I still think they're a different breed, but like it's I mean that's just how it is everywhere. Like
Hmm.
my family's originally from New Jersey and everyone makes fun of New Jersey. So we're used to it. But it's interesting cuz people are just they are away. It's so funny. Like my parents used to complain about drivers here in Pennsylvania. They call my wife hates it. We call them Pennsylvania drivers because they drive stupid, but not stupid because they're bad drivers. They're just not aggressive drivers. And so, like, if you come from a state where people drive rather aggressively
Hmm.
to a state where people drive like they don't know what they're doing,
Ah.
it's incredibly frustrating. But like on the reverse side, when you're driving in a state where people drive like they don't know what they're doing, and then somebody comes in very sure of themselves, they
Hmm.
seem like an asshole as they're zooming and zipping and doing whatever they need to do on the road. So it's there's two sides to every story.
Correct. Yeah, and again, it's just no. It was just funny because like yeah, my girlfriend and I we are on a season 8 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I'm like, damn, I genuinely wonder how accurate it is about maybe certain people in Philly. So thank you for confirming what I kind of presumed. Like, there might be some people who are actually like that, but
There's a little
most.
truth to it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, I think we can move to the this or that game where I ask you two questions and you tell me, or two options, and you tell me which one would you prefer and why. So, Nick,
Do it.
iOS or Android?
I have an iPhone because
Nice.
I like simple.
And
I've dealt with both.
yeah,
Androids just don't do it for me, man. There's just too much. I feel there's a I know it's not true, but like there's this weird lag that I feel is in all Android phones that the iPhone just doesn't have. And
okay.
like I never got into them. There's too much customization. I know people love the customization, and I know they love like
Yes.
we have this feature that your iPhone just got. We've had it for years. Like,
Yes.
yeah, but I don't care. Like, I don't need
hmm
that feature. I need
hmm
my phone to just be simple and easy to use because I'm a big dumb dummy. So like like that's all I need.
No, again, simple is good. And Apple obviously they know what they're doing well, very well. Within their ecosystem, everything works smoothly. The moment you
Yeah,
try to get out of their ecosystem, that's where danger awaits there. The next one
exactly.
will be interesting because, like, I know you're a lot into TV shows. So, TV shows or movies?
I would say movies. If you had asked me 10 years ago, I probably have gone TV. Like
Okay.
my wife and I, we had a schedule that we
Ooh.
kept when we still had cable.
hmm
We're like, all right, this is on Monday, this is on Tuesday, these are the shows on Wednesday. Like, and we kept to that schedule and we watched
hmm
things pretty regularly together. But then, yeah, mainly because movies were just less accessible at the time.
hmm
And then once streaming hit and then Movie Pass, like I said, like the ability to go to the theater to see things that you wouldn't normally because going to the movies is expensive.
hmm
So you got to really be really picky and choosy about what you see. So I would only ever go like a normie and go to just like the big blockbuster
Yep.
and go see the Marvel movie or comic book movies and stuff like that.
hmm
But then once it became no longer a financial concern where you go, I'm paying $20 a month.
hmm
If I want to get my money's worth, I got to see at least 2 to 3 movies a month, depending on the format we see it in. So now I don't feel like I really shouldn't see that. I'll wait till it's on
Yeah.
DVD or I'll wait till it's on streaming or I'll wait till it's on cable and just skip stuff. Like I remember the first movie that I ever saw that was really outside my wheelhouse was Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri,
Ooh.
and I had never I already at that point had started watching more serious films, more like cinema, as it
Yeah.
were,
Yes.
as Martin Scorsese would put it.
Yes.
So I had already been there, but I had never really taken the time and seen one in the theaters because it's just
hmm
I don't want to waste the money on something that I don't really know if I'm gonna enjoy or not.
hmm
And so I saw that one and I was so blown away by it that like after that I started just going to more and more movies like that. Like I'd go with my friends to the big blockbusters, but like I'd go by myself to the smaller ones and just really enjoy how those little movies are, especially on the big screen in a theater with a better sound system. Sometimes even
Yep.
if it's not a big action movie, having a great sound system really can do wonders for just the movie score, for the
hmm
little details that you might not pick up on when you're just watching it at home on your crappy TV with well, I have a nice TV, but like crappy speakers.
No,
I
I
don't
know.
my sound system is not what it should be, but
Hmm
yeah, it's I just think movies are the way to go. TV's still great,
TV is
especially
great.
now, but
Yep.
like I'm starting to again, old man yells at cloud. I'm getting so tired of these 10 episode series where it's like an hour long episode each and you have to watch every single one because it's really like
hmm
a 10-hour movie. Like I've been really getting into the newer Star Treks lately. Like Star Trek has become my biggest obsession ever since Star Wars is dead to me.
hmm
But the we'll get into that. but the episodic nature where you could just watch episode 5 and it doesn't matter if you saw 1 through 4. Like
Yeah.
you just turn on an episode, enjoy an episode of a contained story
Hmm.
that doesn't require a full like movie's worth of viewing. Like it's just I love that old 90s approach to television. I think there's a place for both, but
Hmm.
I'm starting to dislike how every show nowadays feels like it has to be a really long story. Whereas, you know what? It's okay to do, you know, smaller bite-sized like Freak of the Week type episodes.
Yeah, like case of the week. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Some of
Okay.
those shows and those it's really interesting because like you go on Netflix and you see like the top most streamed like library shows. They're
Hmm.
all shows like that. Gilmore Girls, Supernatural, Law and Order, like these shows that lasted for years because they had 24 episodes a season.
Hmm.
They didn't require you to be like keyed into every single episode to
Hmm.
enjoy just one episode. You can just turn them on, enjoy it, and then go about your day. And then, do the same thing the next night.
Yeah.
And it's like these shows are the ones that are literally the bread and butter of these streaming services, and they're all going in the opposite direction. They're like, no, we want short 10
Yeah.
episode seasons. We
Hmm.
want series that are long and stretch out for the entire run of it to the detriment of the storytelling. Like they all want that. And it's like, no, give us longer seasons, Freak of the Week style episodes where you could just enjoy it.
Hmm.
Because once, once like 10 years from now, people are not going to be watching these shows again. They're going to be sticking with those older shows because they're easier to digest. And it's just I think we're starting to see maybe a bit of a turn because I've noticed some shows now are starting to be more episodic, but
Hmm.
we'll see.
Well, we will. Okay, yeah, like you're not the first one to mention this phenomenon where, like, yeah, many, like, I have heard one or two more people like, yeah, bring back those like 24, episode season TV shows where it's just kind of, case of the week kind of thing rather than oh yeah, it needs to be only 8 episodes or 10 episodes, and it's all one long story. I personally probably prefer those, but you
Hmm.
mentioned Gilmore Girls, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I know
Great show.
so it is. And so I think there's a place for both. I think what
Yeah.
streaming did very well, they showed us a way how, because a lot of those old shows, they have, if you rewatch them now, they have a lot of filler episodes. And they
Hmm.
have a lot of like, like if you watch older Simpsons, Dr. Nick, they have clip shows because, they had to have 24, 26
Yeah.
episodes a season. So many times, you know, oh, we have no idea. So let's make a clip show where, yeah, you remember when we did this? And then,
Yeah.
cut to 5 minutes from a like previous season. And so I think there's a balance where we don't need those episodes because if I wanted to watch this episode, I'll just rewatch that episode, not within the new episode where characters are reminiscing of remember when we did this one
Hmm.
time? So yeah, no, but I think there's a balance, but I see what you mean. I do see what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah. A
Uh,
great example. I was
Tell me.
watching Gilmore Girls. I was doing a rewatch Gilmore Girls like a
Nice.
year and a half ago. And I got to like season 5 and just life happened and I stopped for
Hmm.
whatever reason. And a couple weeks ago, I was making cookies for Christmas and I just was like, you know what? I want something on in the background. So I grabbed an iPad, I turned on Gilmore Girls. I literally picked up well, I backtracked one episode because I was like, I don't really even remember watching this one.
Hmm.
But all I had to do was backtrack one episode. I'm now caught up with the overarching story of
Yep.
like the season, and just I watched like 3 or 4 more, and I haven't actually watched it since. But like, if I watched, let's say, the Netflix Daredevil,
Yes.
if I watched the first 6 episodes and then took a year off, I would have to start from the very beginning. There's
Hmm.
no way I'm remembering everything that's happened from episode 1 to episode 6 and then just continuing on to 13. Those shows you got to start over, and it's that
Hmm.
undertaking that's what I'm starting to like. I don't want to do that.
No, I get you.
Time
I
is
get
at a
you.
premium at my age.
Time. No, trust. Yeah. Like. That's one of the biggest things about me starting a new show. One of the
Hmm.
biggest, like, do I start this one or do I start this one is this show still running? Because,
Yeah.
there is a difference between, oh, this show has ended, so I know there's only, let's say, 5 seasons. Each season has 10, 20 episodes, but I know there is a certain number, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, oh yeah, this season is in its, or this show is in its 12th season and it's still running. I'm like, that seems like a lot of, such a big commitment.
Yeah. It
And like,
is. It really is.
so yeah, but again, like, there are some amazing shows out, and more are being produced, let
Oh
alone
yeah.
movies. Like, there is like one life is not enough. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Yeah, just the
It
amount of
really
time we
is.
have on this world is not enough.
That's what I'm saying. Before I die, just find a way to transfer my brain into a robot and then put me in front of a television set, and I'll be fine.
Speaking of time, money or free time?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one is kind of useless without the other. So,
Pretty
like,
much.
if you have all the money in the world but no time to use it, then what's the point? If you have all the time in the world and no money to do anything, then
Yep, I
like
know.
it just depends. Like, I mean, I'm gonna say money because money does buy you experiences. Like, we took the kids to Disney World,
Mm-hmm.
God, back in 2016.
Okay.
So we're approaching 10 years that since we've been there.
Mm-hmm.
We had another trip planned in 2020,
Of
but
course.
something happened.
I wonder why they didn't go, Nick. I just really wonder. Yes.
We literally I'm not even kidding you. It was February 2020. We literally put down the deposit for the trip. We were going to go in October and it was February. So within like 2 weeks, that was all put on hold. And then we kept pushing it because Oliver at that point was two.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, he's still free. So we should go while he's still free and doesn't count as a person.
Yes.
Uh, and it's only gotten exponentially more expensive since with all of their we opened the park back up and but not everything's open just yet. There are still you can't meet the characters directly anymore because of COVID restrictions. So we're like,
Yep.
well, Oliver's too. We're taking him there for the characters because when we took the girls, they couldn't ride a ton of the rides. Mia could. She could get on pretty much everything except for a few. Lily could only ride like the basic slow rides.
Mm-hmm.
But what they loved the most was meeting the characters, getting to meet all the princesses, getting to see Buzz Lightyear and Stitch. Like that's what they wanted to do. And we're like, Oliver is not going to appreciate waving to them from a roped off enclosure.
Yep.
So like, let's wait until they at least bring that back. They bring that back, but then they introduce Disney Genie, where you have to pay extra if you want to get fast pass rides. And it's like, well, that's not cool because as we've said, 5 kids, that gets super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
$25 per Disney Genie. That's now you're going into the park. You haven't even rode a single thing, and you've already spent an additional $125 on top of your tickets. And it's like, and that's a day.
Mm-hmm.
Do that. So and then they start raising ticket prices and raising every like so now what turned into a affordable trip for 4 people plus a baby has turned into an ungodly experience where the amount of money we're paying is inevitably not going to be the payoff that we want because we're like you only got 10 days.
Yep.
10 days isn't a ton of time. So we're going to feel rushed. We're going to feel like we're not getting our money's worth because now we're spending like triple what we normally would have been. And just the magic will be gone. And so, yeah, money is great if you can use it accordingly because, like, people with money don't buy happiness, but it does buy a trip to Disney World for 5 people. And that's as close to happiness as I've ever seen. So I don't know what
Yep.
they're talking about.
I agree. And also, just to make you, I guess, a little bit less sad. So, your COVID story, how you booked in February 2020,
Yeah.
we've had, so in the UK, we had a shutdown on like 28th of March 2020, like
Yeah.
proper full-on shutdown, right? And it was like 27th of March. My girlfriend and I, we had everything booked and were scheduled to go to Switzerland to
Oh
visit our
no.
friends because they used to back then they used to live in Switzerland. So we planned it for obviously several months. My girlfriend had to get a visa and all that sorted, so she had to go to Edinburgh to get her visa sorted, the whole fucking shtick. And everything was in place. And then when we got first news, like, oh, this country is shutting down, Italy seems fucked, and I'm like, oh. I remember messaging my friend in Switzerland like mid-March. I'm like, I don't
Hmm.
think we're gonna go. I cannot see this happening. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. And then yeah, a few days later, shut down. And I'm like, yep,
Oh my God. March of 2020. I've never seen so many people go from this is all nothing. I don't know what we're talking about to oh my God, what is happening?
yep,
Just
yep.
within a week, we went from 0 to 100. It was awesome. We shut down the on my birthday.
Oh,
It was March 19th. That was officially the last day that we were in the office. No, March 18th was the last day we were in the office. March 19th was everything. We're work from home now.
yep.
And because I said goodbye to everybody, and they're all like, well, because at that point they were like they didn't know what was going to happen. Well, if we see you tomorrow, if we don't see you tomorrow, happy birthday. And I'm like, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And then sure enough, never saw them again.
Wild time. Oh, just very wild.
Was
Oh,
oh my God.
it is.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, aren't you just happy to live through like, like a century event, like, like another century, like, like
Every
all
five
these like
years, yeah.
historical events in your lifetime? It's great. Like, we've had like the major economic crisis in 2007, 8. We've had so many other like, pandemic. We had
Nine
so many,
11.
not oh yeah, we had Brexit, us
Yeah.
people here. You guys have Donald again. So like like
Ugh.
a historic event after historical event. Just it's like sometimes I wish I would just live in a era where it was like kind of boring. Like this era
Right?
was kind of like nothing much happened here. Like it's
Nothing
just
really happened in like a 10-year time frame.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
weird.
yeah, or at least nothing bad. Like give me
Yeah.
something good. Uh,
Yeah.
Honesty or other people's feelings.
Mm,
Mm,
I'm gonna say other people's feelings
mm-hmm.
because I am more of a timid, shy person in a unknown situation. I have been known when I'm a little too familiar with people to be to say things that are kind of stupid, but are maybe a little more truthful than they should be. Especially like the other day, my daughter goes, "How's my makeup, Dad?" And I'm like, "I don't fucking know. What, what are you looking for here?" Like it
Yep.
looks great. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that would be a blatant lie to you. Like, and so I told her as much. And Julie looked at me like, "What the fuck?" Like I don't know because honestly, she looked like she didn't put any makeup on, so I knew
Mm-hmm.
she had it
Mm-hmm.
on. But yeah, but in the wild, I'm usually more like, "Oh, okay, that's
Good
fine
for
if you
you.
think that.
Good for you.
Good for you."
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
Summer or winter?
Ah, hmm. That's tough because I'm a fall. I, as Richard Gilmore would say, am an
I'm
autumn.
in autumn. Yes.
So, I guess winter. I've always said I can always put on more clothes, but I can't take more clothes off. So,
That is true.
if at a certain point, if I'm too hot, I have to still wear stuff. But if whenever you're cold, put on more socks, put on a jacket, put on a hat. Like you could blankets, man. Blankets are great.
Oh yeah.
So
Cozy.
I'll probably go winter. Plus, it snowed here yesterday, and I got some great pictures of. I went outside to grab something from the trunk,
Hmm.
uh, and just I'm looking at the trees. The snow had clung to all the branches, and just the way that the Christmas lights were still on, like illuminating everything. It was like daytime at 10 o'clock at night. It was so pretty, and you don't get stuff like that in the summertime. Just
That is
just
true.
snow is pretty great.
That is, yeah, no, that is true. And also Pennsylvania, it does get quite cold there, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, so
It
like
does.
winter, we
It does,
talking
but
like
not
what?
so cold that we
Okay.
ever have to really worry. Every 8 years or so, we'll have the blizzard of all blizzards, which is like 10, 15 feet of snow. It like
Hmm.
snows us in for like 3 days, and then like we have to watch it melt for a month.
Yeah.
But like it's only like every decade. Like once a decade we get that.
Yeah.
Whereas like, you go maybe just 1 hour north of us and that's every winter for them. It's crazy. So like, and then it never gets too hot here in the summer
Hmm.
times. It's nice and temperate. I like to say we don't have giant bugs. We're in the perfect area where the giant bugs do they can't get big enough to live, so they
Yeah.
die every winter. It's great. So the winter.
Nice. And what's the average like temperature there, like for a winter? Like when you say
Uh
it doesn't get like that cold.
Well, that's just it, man. Pennsylvania is great for a lot of things. However, the weather is not one of them because, like, God flips a coin and determines whether or not it's going to be hot or cold
I
in a
see.
single week. Like, we constantly are having days like this past week.
Hmm.
It was 60 degrees one day. It
Okay.
was 40 degrees the very next day. Like,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
just like the difference in temperature. I was wearing a light jacket one day. I'm bundled up like I'm going to the Arctic the next.
Yeah.
We were joking once. We had every bit of weather you could think of within a week last March. It snowed at the beginning of the week. It was by the end of the week, it was so warm we were in shorts. It was wild. It rained, it snowed, we had whipping winds. It was
Hmm.
insane. I'm just like, someone needs to turn that weather machine down to whatever the normal thing is because it's insane.
I might blow your mind, but in where I live in Scotland, I've had 2 or 3 days in different years that are exactly like that. Like one day, all seasons. Like there was like a
It's
beautiful.
crazy.
It snowed for a minute, and it was like I remember one of them was like in July. I was like,
Yeah.
it was like a nice July day. Like I woke up, it was like a nice July day, and then halfway through that day, like it was raining. I was like, okay, and suddenly I was like, that's fucking snow. I was like, it's July. The fuck? And then like the evening, no snow. It was just like a brief snow, and evening, it was fine. It kind of, felt like autumn, and I'm like,
Yeah.
the fuck, Scotland, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well,
But ninjas or
weatherman.
pirates?
This is fun. I'm going pirates
Oh,
because
tell me.
because pirates are more fun. Just
Hmm.
they drink, they go on the sea. There's something about being on a ship on the water. I mean, maybe this is the Star Wars, Star Trek fan in me, like to be on a ship and
Yeah,
to travel and to go places and to see things, like to do what you want, but to have some form of structure while you're doing said wants.
yeah,
But also, when we were in high school, my buddy came up with this. I don't know where he got the idea, but he came up with this tournament. And so it's like
hmm,
pirates versus ninjas,
okay,
zombies versus like robots and stuff like that. Like, and he did like a tournament bracket style, like where we all voted on which one we wanted to win, and we all took it in different ways. Like, some of us were like, which is better? Some were like, if they had to fight each other, what
yeah,
would be the
yeah,
winner? Like, so it was super fun. And Pirates versus Ninjas was the name of the tournament. So we put
nice.
pirates on one side, we put ninjas on the other side, and we wanted to see if they'd eventually get to the middle together.
And who won? Do you remember?
Not even a clue.
Nah, it's fine.
Couldn't tell you. It
It's
was
been a
so
while.
long ago, and there were
Yeah,
so many choices. But yeah, that was fun. And yeah, but pirates all the way. And much to Mike Hilty's distress, Pirates of the Caribbean in my top 20 movies of all time.
I I don't think that's a hot take, especially the first movie is excellent. Like
So good.
especially that first movie, and I would even go as far as to say like the trilogy after, like like the first three movies. Like not all of them are 5 out of 5, but they are very
No,
great
yeah.
movies. Like they are
Yeah, they are.
solid. It's a solid trilogy. I do need to rewatch them. It's been a minute, but
Yeah,
it's
those are really good.
great. And the last question, free will or destiny?
I mean, free will seems right, although I've started to be suspicious that we are actually living in a simulation at this
Oh,
point because there's just too many weird random things. Like we are just one big Sims game, and the last 10 years, whoever was playing it walked away from the computer and his kid's been taking over because it's been just like, let's throw murder bees into the situation and see what happens. So like it's just wild. Like, I don't know. And then you get those weird like happenstance things where
Hmm.
you're talking to your wife about something and then you go to work and like the thing you were talking about like occurs in front of your face, like
Hmm.
not in your control at all, but like suddenly there it is, something you've never seen before. And it's just like, unless someone was listening in to do that. But even still, I think we've got the free will to do it. Even if somebody is controlling the strings, it just doesn't seem like. But then again, I got into a fight with my wife the other day. I
Hmm.
said something incredibly stupid, and my brain is going, "Don't say that. That's incredibly stupid. You're gonna get into a fight. This is not going to end well." And yet I said it anyway, and it started a fight. And then I had to apologize for being such an idiot. And
Hmm.
it's like, why would you say that? Because someone made you say it. That's why. But
Uh,
I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe then I'm throwing the responsibility card out the window. So
yeah, I get you. I get you. That's also one of the most popular, not most popular, but like a popular theory. I don't know if you're aware of this. So there is a theory that we are kind of like a big giant like ant farm, quote unquote,
mhm.
and we are designed by aliens. And so basically, Earth is this whole like show, like reality kind of type show,
A reality
where they're
show.
like, oh yeah, what happens if we throw them a pandemic? Let's see how those ants behave now. So like some people genuinely, I'm not one of them, but some people genuinely believe we have been created by aliens and we are being watched at any single time and basically just we exist for somebody else's amusement. And I'm like,
Yeah. Show me what
okay.
you've
Yeah, yeah,
got.
yeah, pretty much like show me what you got.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I
And
mean, I
before,
wouldn't put it past it at this point.
I mean, look, anything like what's happened in the world in past just like 10 years, like I made me question a lot of things. Let's put it that
Mhm.
way.
Exactly.
And before we move to the Flex part of the podcast, do you have any hot takes you're willing to share with us?
Yes, I do have a hot take.
Take me.
Tuck
Hey.
in, boys and girls, because this one's kind of stupid, but also it drives me up the wall. And I've actually like brought my wife in on this one. I hate polite drivers. They
Ah,
drive me insane.
s- so
It
what does it mean, like polite driver? So like, does it mean like somebody who like properly obeys the rules to a T,
No,
or okay, so
no. It's people who blatantly disregard the rules of the road because they
ah,
wanted to be nice. Oh, you go ahead.
oh,
I need to turn left
I see, I
and I
see.
have the right of way,
Yeah,
but you go ahead.
you go. Yeah,
Even
yeah,
though
yeah.
the guy behind me is expecting me to go and might slam into me if they're not paying attention close enough
Mm-hmm.
because we live in a country I live in a country where drivers don't pay attention all that great.
Okay.
So the second you do something that is not what you're supposed to be doing, it causes accidents. And
Mm-hmm.
I've almost watched people get rear-ended hardcore so many times that we take the kids to karate in a plaza where the entryway to the plaza is really a short little thing. So the people coming in do not have a stop sign, but the people going out have a stop sign. So all the ways are stops except
Okay.
for the incoming,
Yeah.
so as not to back up that section to the main road, but also because it's such a short way, if you were to stop there and someone wasn't looking, they would just plow into you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And so we pull up to the stop,
Mm-hmm.
and people are constantly stopping short at that intersection, even though we're stopped to then wave us along. Oh, you go. And I just sit there and I point. I have a stop sign.
Yep.
Learn how to drive. It drives me insane. People do it at my office building all the time. There's in the parking garage. I park on the side where you have to turn to
Mm-hmm.
get out, and the main entryway has a ramp that goes straight out the door.
Okay.
And I'll be sitting there waiting my turn, and people will be driving down, and then they'll stop short on the ramp and wave me along. And it's just like you don't even realize that the guy behind you had to also stop short because you were being an idiot. And it drives me insane because I've witnessed so many near misses.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I see it, the more angry I get. It's like, just follow the rules of the road. Just follow the rules of the road.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
It's nuts.
No, the rules are there to be followed. Like, look, are there some rules meant to be broken? Sure. But like
Absolutely.
as far as, if when everybody, every single one of us is driving like several ton, heavy weight machine, right?
Hmm.
That can squash you in a second. You definitely want to stick to some rules. But and if you want to be nice and and make up your own rules, you're putting everybody in danger, including yourself. Like it's fucking
Exactly.
insane. I remember like before my girlfriend started to drive, she's like watched me drive, obviously, and every once in a while she would be like, "Oh, why are you so nervous?" And I'm like, "Because
Mm.
people here are fucking stupid."
Yeah, they
I
are.
believe like half people where we live should not be on a road because they don't know the rules and or kind of like when you're saying, what are you saying? They are very polite and they tell you, "Oh, you should go," but they have a right of way, and I'm like, that's fucking confusing to everybody. And
Right?
since she started to drive, I think she's even angrier than me. Like she now is like, like every single time she comes from her work and she needs to commute about 50 miles every day, like, back and forth. She always has some stories how this person pissed her off because they did A, B, and C, and this person, and she's like, I think she's much angrier than me about driving. And it's always like, yeah, just wait until it happens. Yeah, it happens to you, and it's just fucking insane.
Yep, indeed.
Any other hot takes?
No, that's my hottest of take, non-movie
Fair.
wise.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So, with that, I think we can move to the Flix part of the podcast,
Let's do it.
where I'll ask you, Nick, what is the last new movie you would rate 5 out of 5? So, anything 2020s onward.
The most recent one was The Wild Robot. I
Mm,
just fell in love with this movie. It it made me cry. My daughter, when the movie ended, my 12-year-old goes, "Oh man, that movie made me cry twice." And I'm like, that movie made me cry like four times.
yep.
It was like the end of it was like in a Marriage Story where they're comparing the cries because it's such a beautiful movie about parenthood,
Hmm.
about raising kids, letting them go, but then it also has another amazing story baked in there about community and how we need to stop seeing each other as different and working together. And I don't know if maybe because the whole this was like right smack dab in the middle of election season
Yep.
where I'm just getting so tired of the idiot side of things where he just degrades people and makes people feel lesser and treats people poorly and says racist things constantly. And I was just getting so bombarded with that and it was driving me nuts. And then to see a movie where the message essentially is, guys, our differences are what make us great when we work together to be a community.
Yep.
Stop treating each other like being at odds with each other, like that scene where they're all fighting in the cabin and it's like in order to stay warm and alive we need to live together. It's the old Lost quote, we need to live together or we're going to die alone. Like
Yes.
it's
Yes.
just I loved the movie for what it was saying and the fact that it had two whole messages like that
Hmm.
and didn't fall apart or be like just disjointed. It was a beautiful story from start to finish, and I just was really blown away by it. So it got a straight 5 star for me.
Yeah. No, Wild Robot. I went to see it with my girlfriend in a cinema, and talk about crying. Like she cried, like yeah, as you say, like 4 or 5 times. I was almost there, like it almost got to me. Like I rarely cry at movies. Like not even just the cinema, like genuine movies. I think I've cried like only 2 or 3 times because I usually like but
Hmm.
this one almost got to me. And but yeah, it's such an amazing movie. Like the voice acting, Lupita
Oh, right.
Nyong'o, Pedro Pascal, like just brilliant. And the movie looks awesome. Like the animation is beautiful, and yeah,
Hmm.
the messages and also the like environmentalist, the word I cannot pronounce, message about environment and how we should treat it better and all that mixed into that. And neither of them seem to be out of place. I genuinely think this is gonna be a future classic. Like
Oh,
this
I
is gonna
agree.
be like, oh yeah, in 10 years time, like Finding Nemo, like is still like for many people the best Pixar movie and the movie they
Mine,
grew up on. Yeah,
my
see?
favorite Pixar movie.
See,
Yep.
see? I genuinely think there's gonna be a generation for which the Wild Robot will be what Finding Nemo was for, yeah. And we are kind of similar age, I think. What Finding Nemo was for us. Like,
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, it's about family, it's about community, it's about this and this and this. But it's also so beautiful. It is a great movie. Just
it is.
I'm gonna be rooting for it at the Oscars.
Me too.
I don't think it's gonna win because Disney, obviously. Like Disney is the big juggernaut that just likes to win.
Inside Out 2 is
And
going to be there as well. Yeah, that's the
yes.
thing.
But
It's
last year, Boy
yeah.
and the Heron managed to surprise all of us, and I was rooting for Across the Spider-Verse. I'm not gonna lie, but was I sad about Boy and the Heron? No, because I also like that movie so much. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay, that's a great choice. So what about some last teen quote unquote movie you would rate 5 out of 5? Anything between 2003 and 2019?
It this one was tough. I
Hmm.
was going back through my letterbox to see what it was, and honestly, I couldn't tell you. But
Okay,
I think I came across two that I might have.
tell me.
Although I think both of them I might have. See, it's very hard to get a 5 out of 5 on the first viewing
Hmm.
of something. Um, so sometimes some of my 5 stars started out as 4 or 4.5, but there are two movies that I are 5 star movies for me.
Hmm.
I just don't remember if that's how they started. And the first one was The Martian, and the second one is Blind Spotting. And I think Blind Spotting
Nice.
would have been more recent,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
both of those movies are just so beautiful in their own right. Like
Hmm.
The Martian, just a stunning tale of, exceptionalism, and another one bringing people together for a common purpose. It
Yep.
just that ending is such a fist pump moment when everyone's watching on the
Hmm.
screens, like, did they get him or not? Like, I love it. It's awesome. But then Blind Spotting, like, on the reverse, like how an individual has to do things and put up with stuff, and just the way that the story progresses, where you see all of the hardships, and like how he's able to overcome those hardships, and it's just like it's such a small personal,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
fist pump moment at the end when he's like rapping at the guy, and he's finally able to like let his catharsis come out, and he can be okay, and
Yep.
just both beautiful. I love them.
Oh, both excellent movies. Like The Martian, obviously, I don't think we have to say more because like you summed it up beautifully. It's great. And also talk about, you know, movie with phenomenal cast where like, each role is like, oh,
Oh, right.
this dude, this woman, oh, I know her, I know him, I know him. Ooh,
Hollywood the movie. And
yeah,
it's
pretty much.
funny. It's
It
really
is.
funny too.
It's
I love
so
it.
funny. It's underrated. Honestly, like the movie is such a quality sci-fi. People forget how funny it can be.
Yep.
But then blind spotting, like I still remember the courtroom scene that's shot in such a way that I'm like, holy fucking shit. And then the last 10 minutes, one of the
Hmm.
most tense I've ever felt. Like there's a gun involved and police officer,
Hmm.
and it's wow. It's just like both of them also 5 out of 5 for me on a first watch, and I need to watch. Have you watched the TV show, the blind spotting TV show, by the way?
No, I haven't. I didn't have access to it
Mm.
when it came out, and I honestly don't even remember which service is on right now, but I don't think I have it.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but I don't think it's available here, and I think it's only 2 or 3 seasons. If I'm not mistaken, it's already been finished or canceled. I don't
I think
know.
it is done.
Yeah.
I think it was two, yeah, 2 or 3 sounds right, and I think
Hmm.
they did finish it up. But
Yeah. No, but I do
yeah,
do
I hear
want to
it's
check
good.
it out because if that, is going to be anywhere close to the level of the movie, it's going to be a
Yeah.
phenomenal TV show. So I cannot wait for that. Great pick. Like so far, like very three strong choices. So great. What is the last adult movie, quote unquote, you would rate 5 out of 5? So anything between 2002 and 1975.
This one was easier to find because I watched this movie for the first time only, I think it was last year,
Okay.
or when did Coming to America come out? Because it was right before
21?
then.
21,
21?
22?
God, oh, so okay. So I think it was 22. So it was
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago now. But I watched Coming to America,
Mm-hmm.
from 1980s, with Eddie Murphy. for the first time 2 years ago, and this was one of those movies where it's like it's been out for how long? How have you not seen this? They always play it on TV, but like I never sat down and watched it start to finish. My parents were strict about certain R-rated movies growing up, so
Hmm.
I wasn't allowed to watch it. And then at a certain point, it just was not available. But I finally sat down. I watched it from start to finish. I cannot believe how funny this movie is. It's
Yes, it is.
so fun. And it was one of those moments where it was like you found a hidden gem that turns out wasn't hidden at all. It was on a pedestal and a spotlight beaming on it, and you've just somehow missed it your whole life. Like, and I was just like, this is great. Like, I love this movie. It's so much fun. So it got an immediate 5 star.
Yeah, like to me, like Eddie Murphy, obviously a mega star, like
Mhm.
comedic giant. Like was there anybody bigger in 80s than him? Like he had a like what in like movies, what he's done, and yeah, Coming to America, and for me, Trading Places are
Trading Places is mine.
like neck to neck. I don't know which one I prefer because both of them to me like these are like untouchable classics. These
Yeah.
are like these are like comedy standards, like where every scene just hits, like most jokes like hit, like oh,
Hmm.
it's such a great movies, such a great movies. Okay,
Indeed.
like we are on a really good roll, so let's see like how we finish. What is the last old movie you'd rate 5 out of 5? Anything 74 and older.
All right. So the last one was last Christmas. I watched for the first time. It's a mad, 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 mad world.
Ah, interesting.
And I just really loved it. Now, granted, when I was growing up, or I was growing up, I because it came out in like 2003, the movie Rat Race,
Yes,
I really liked it. I watched that movie a ton. After
me
I first
too.
discovered it, and I mean, arguably not the best movie in the world, but
Hmm.
it does what it needs to do. It's funny where it needs to be. It
Yes.
it has a great cast of characters and is
It ends with a
essentially a
Smash Mouth.
remake.
Yeah, and it
Oh,
ends with a Smash Mouth song, so obviously 5 out of
it
5
does.
instantly
But
just
it's that
there.
exactly the end of the Smash Mouth concert.
Yes.
I- So, like, realistically, having been such a fan of that, you would think that seeing the original concept
Hmm.
with It's a Mad, 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 Mad World would maybe not play as well for me. Like, oh, well, it's Rat Race. Like, I, but, and regardless of the length, this is a movie that as soon as I saw it, I bought it on Criterion. I
Oh,
went and I got the
nice.
DVD. I loved it. It was so much fun. I had such a great time because, like, it's that older style of movie making
Hmm.
where they spend a little bit more time with characters and situations, and one could argue that it's a little slow, but like this movie progresses in a way that even if it is a little slower, it's still intentional. It's not like overly drawn out. It takes you where you need to be when you need to be there, and
Hmm.
the gags and the jokes and just the sharp dialogue, how funny everyone is in this, and just the wacky situations that they all get into as
Yep.
they're trying to get to this place separate from each other. It was just such a fun time. So I
Hmm.
really enjoyed that one
So funny enough, I've also watched it for the first time like a year ago.
because of
Uh,
CinemaSins.
no, like it's been on like like so. What I do is I follow a variety of like lists where like the
Okay,
greatest of this decade, and I'm trying to go through like like unique, or not unique, but like those kind of like oh this is the best of 1960s, best of 1970s, whatever. And it's been kind of coming up on many different lists, like best comedies, best
hmm,
movie, and maybe I've hyped it up too much, where I thought like when you said it might be a bit too slow, I had that issue. Like I was
okay,
like, does this movie need to be 2.5 hours? I don't think it did, but
probably not.
but I need to rewatch it, and I also know there are different cuts. There's like a cut that's like 3 hour, like
Yeah,
that adds some footage. There's like a TV cut that's like much shorter. I am willing to give it another shot because I thought it was okay, and I
okay,
really wanted to love it. And also, like talk about the legends. There, Buster Keaton is there.
right?
the Three Stooges,
Hmm.
and pretty much everybody who was big in the 1960s or and before 1950s, basically name after name after name. And I think part of that is some of them are not as big or not as known now. So like I think part of the disconnect for me was, oh, I should have probably known this person. I should have probably cheered more because this person just said that, but I don't have
Hmm.
that connection. I guess
Yeah.
maybe, like in 40 years time, there might be like how certain people will feel about the rat race or like many kind of comedies and movies are like we have like the A-listers of today, and some of them will probably not have the staying power where people will
Hmm.
know their name 40, 50 years from now. And
Yeah,
some
exactly.
others will do. So no, but I do need to rewatch it like at some point because I really want to love it. It just didn't
Yeah.
hit me that way it hit you. But I know many more people are on your wavelength. Many more people would put it in those lists. So like, yeah, this is one of the best comedies ever made.
Well, comedy, like they say, it's very subjective. And
Hmm.
when you go goofy and absurd to a
Hmm.
degree that is well beyond like what a normal, like that, the ending of that movie where they're all climbing up the stairs and
Yeah.
they're on the fire truck thing and it's like it's the dumbest thing in the world. And I 100% would not discount anyone who goes, this is ridiculous in a
Hmm.
2 hour movie. Like, why
Yeah.
are we still here? But like for me, it was like that breath of fresh air. Whereas just as the movie might be getting to be a little too long, they're like, but we couldn't cut this, so you have to enjoy it. And I'm like, done. So it's great.
It is. No, it is. And again, I'm on the island here. More people agree with you. I know that. So,
Yeah.
but that actually, speaking of that, what would you say is your favorite movie decade? Because now I'm really curious.
I did the math.
Oh, tell me.
Because I was like, what is my favorite movie decade? Because I know I've seen the most movies in the 2000 to 2000 or the 2010 to 2020
Yep,
time
yep,
frame
yep.
because that's when I started really kicking off with all the movies and catching
Yes.
up on things.
Yeah.
But I pulled my top 200 movies
Hmm.
and I got a little tally thing for the decades. And so I can tell you with full certainty that my favorite movie decade is the 1990s. Um,
Nice. Nice.
there just was so many movies that I love from that decade. And what's fun is that like growing up, I was only allowed to watch certain movies. So like there are a lot of movies like that are on my list, like
Hmm.
Mrs. Doubtfire, great example.
Yes.
But then there are movies that I discovered when I started like going back and diving into the ones that I was never allowed to watch, like Die Hard. I didn't see Die
Ooh.
Hard till I was a senior in college,
Hmm.
and I immediately felt it was another one of those moments where you're just like, how have I missed this all of my life? Like, how has this not been a movie that I watch on repeat
Yes.
forever?
Yeah.
And so like it's movies like that where I started to discover them at which I think Die Hard's an 80s movie, but still I started to discover them as I got older and ended up the 90s just ended up being full of
Hmm.
a ton of great movies that I really love. But since I did the math, I felt I should share it because I did the work.
Tell me.
Uh, of my top 200, 53 of 200 were in the 90s. 47 of 200 were in the 2000s. 46 of 200 were in the 2010s. 27 were in the 80s and 14 were in the 70s. And then the remainder were in a combination of the 60s, 40s, 50s. I didn't
Yeah.
bother.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the breakdown.
Nice. No, 90s is like again, 90s is such a great decade. It's for like the blockbusters, great.
Mhm.
For the like, proper like indie ones, proper indie movies where, like you would get a bunch of up and comers to, like, oh, let's make a movie for 1 million, 2 million here, and then, let's
Yeah,
get big. Obviously Tarantino, John Favreau, all those guys, and like, and I think that's the first kind of decade where Hollywood started to notice more and more of like foreign movies and foreign stars, like start to show up more. Like we
yeah.
got like Salma Hayek, Penelope Cruz in like mainstream movies. Like even though Penelope wasn't until like 2001 with Vanilla Sky. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's just, it's kind of like that. So great, great decade. And it, kind of like you, I have a feeling you grew up in the 90s as well, because I think we are very similar in age. So,
I'll be 40 in March.
okay, you're slightly older, but I think still kind of, still I
Yeah.
would, yeah, okay. You don't look day older than 38. I'll say that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we were watching the Santa Claus the other day, another great 90s movie,
Hmm.
and they're given the description of Scott Calvin. Tim
Hmm.
Allen was 38 years old,
Ah.
and I'm watching the movie. I'm like, I am now officially older than Santa Claus.
It's always so interesting to like do those calculations, right?
Hmm.
It's like, it's like one of those like if they made Back to the Future now, they would have gone back to what, 1994.
Yep.
Because that's 30 years, ago. And
Yep.
I'm like, what?
They
No,
better not. They better
no.
not ever make Back to the Future now.
Yeah,
It'll make me
no.
sad.
But also, like, imagine because we are already like so many movies are nowadays like dealing with like the nostalgia of like 80s, 90s, right? Just like, we have already enough to be like, oh yeah, we need to make Back to the Future, but we're gonna go back to the 90s again. And it's like, no, 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 no. So, so you mentioned that or hinted at before some hot movie takes, so let's hear them.
Right. So I I don't know if it's so much of a hot take now
Okay.
because everyone is finally on board with the whole Disney is just kind of really effing up royal with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But my apparently hot take, because people disagree with me constantly, is that they should have never canceled the expanded universe and they should have taken the book franchise that built the universe to what it was and used that as the template going forward with Disney. They should
Mm-hmm.
have kept those stories as active stories, maybe even adapted some for their Disney Plus shows, and then started their movies with, you know, I said 5 years after the last book that they wrote, because the last book was called Crucible, and it took place 40 years after A New Hope,
Okay.
putting the characters' ages to be about the same ages as our three original leads.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that story was kind of a swan song for them, not to
Mm-hmm.
spoil anything, but nobody dies, but they kind of make the decision at the end of the book to Han, Luke, and Leia go, you know what? It's not about us anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
they kind of decide to take some, a step back. And how fun would it be if they set the episode five, three, shit, brain seven. If they set it the Force Awakens 5 years after that book
Mm-hmm.
with brand new characters or with legacy characters from the stories. For example, at that point, Luke Skywalker's son Ben Skywalker, not Ben Solo, Ben Skywalker,
Mm-hmm.
would have been the perfect age to be like how young Obi-Wan was with Anakin.
Okay.
He would have been the master, and Han Solo's granddaughter, Han and Leia's granddaughter, Amelia, or Alana. There's story to that, which that's where it gets a little squiffy because
Okay.
you're just like, well, how am I supposed to know? They could have just have introduced her as Alana. Alana Solo would have been 18.
Mm-hmm.
She would have been the perfect age to be the main character in a new story with her cousin as her master, and it's now a master apprentice relationship where they go on an adventure. And for those of us who have read the books, we know that her father, Jason Solo, went to the dark side. His sister, Jaina Solo, had to kill him in order to stop him. And so there's family trauma there that she could be coming to terms with. There's character depth that, if you read the books, if you know, you know, but if you don't know, it's still interesting.
Okay.
And if you do know, it is still interesting to watch this character have to go through that. Then you've got your you can make Luke the old hermit that they go visit. You could introduce a new threat to the galaxy, and Luke Skywalker's Jedi temple succeeded in this universe. He
Mm.
managed to bring back the Jedi, but in his own way, where they put more of an emphasis on family and connection to improve their strength in the Force. So, instead of a dark, everything is awful now because we just reset the universe because we couldn't come up with original ideas and we
Mm-hmm.
just rebooted the franchise, we have a more rich and different universe than the prequels and the original trilogy, and you can then also not alienate half of your fan base.
Yeah.
I said for the longest time, why on earth would you cancel this? Because the people who just liked three of the six movies, because everyone hated the prequels at the time, why would you placate to those people when you have a built-in audience of people who love this franchise for more than just the movies?
Hmm.
They're going to be happy. And then all these people who just like the movies are also going to be happy because they don't know any better.
Yeah.
There's no reason for you to placate the normal, the casual fan, the casual audience, when you can literally make something for everyone and everyone will be happy. But instead, they immediately decided to split the fan base and started what I think is the reason that there's so much toxicity around Star Wars.
Hmm.
Because you've got casual fans who are oblivious to everything, who like the movies for what they are, and you've got diehard fans who are now being told, no, that thing that you like, that's not what it is anymore. It's
Yeah.
completely different. We've killed what you liked and replaced it with a alien. We've body snatched them and put a weird skin suit on them, and
Hmm.
we're force feeding it down your throat, going, but it's the same. You should like it, and it's so irritating, and I hate it, and I hate it so much, and I think that they should never have done what they did. They should have kept it going. And I know a lot of people completely disagree with me, although more so now are starting to see, oh yeah, what Disney did is kind of stupid. So
Well, yeah, what Disney did. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, Jason Solos doesn't sound real. Like, for some reason, the name Jason does not fit in a Star Wars universe. Like, I don't know
ah
why.
they
Like,
named freaking Harris kid Jason.
I don't know. I'm not questioning, like, like, I obviously haven't not actually read those books, so I know you're right. But, like, for some
The Disney
reason,
canon has now used stolen that name and used it in their own, and I hate it.
I see. But yeah, like, no, I would much look. I think the biggest problem with the sequel trilogy, right,
Yeah.
was and or is there is, they chickened out when like a vocal minority of fans were unhappy with this decision, this decision, this decision,
Yeah.
and therefore, for that trilogy, there was no coherent plan. And
Agreed.
that's
Agreed.
why I've made this point several times. Like that's why many people now appreciate the prequels for what they are because like they have their issues.
Yeah.
However, George Lucas at least had a plan. Think of all you want about Phantom Menace. That's a clear beginning to something.
Mhm.
Attack again, think all you want about Attack of the Clones. There is a middle point for something and building up on top, from the previous movie and building up towards something. And then the third movie pays off. How much, that's up to you, obviously.
Yeah.
But there is a narrative storyline to that which actually justifies it and makes it into a trilogy, coherent. Like, look, maybe a flawed trilogy, sure, but coherent.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
but the sequels, like they start off very well. I did like Last Jedi, and I've rewatched it since the cinema, and it held up very nicely for me. So like I just wish they didn't chicken out like what when Ryan Johnson came and actually changed everything. Because that I think the biggest problem for the average Star Wars fan is
Yeah.
they tell you, "Oh, I want something new." Ryan Johnson's like, "Hold my beer. Give
Yeah.
you something
Here, I'll give
new."
you something new.
Yeah,
And they
exactly.
hated it.
And
They
yeah,
actually didn't
exactly.
want something new. They didn't at
Exactly.
all. And
Yes.
it's funny enough, I had another hot take that I kind of was like, but since you brought it up, I think the reason people hate The Last Jedi is the wrong reason. Like everything people give The Last Jedi crap for is stupid. And
Mhm.
the real reasons to hate The Last Jedi are superficial and also equally stupid, but more like the way that he breaks just universe conventions in it, like the way hyperspace works, the way
Yeah.
that, the comedy of it. I think Ryan Johnson completely missed how Star Wars comedy is supposed to go. I point to Rogue One as that's a great example of Star Wars comedy. I think J.J. Abrams screwed it up too.
Hmm.
They both seem to insert modern comedy
Yes.
tropes
Yes.
into Star Wars, and that just doesn't work. It takes you out of the movie. It makes it feel weird. Whereas Rogue One introduced or didn't introduce, but it kind of played off of the comedy of the original trilogy, and it felt more in universe. Now, I don't
Hmm.
love Rogue One for a bunch of reasons, but what I can say about Rogue One is that they nailed the tone of Star Wars.
I never thought about
Whereas
it like that. I never, but when he said it, I was like, yeah, that's true. Because like I still remember the Force Awakens, how it starts when what's his name,
who
Oscar
speaks
Isaac.
first? Do you speak
Yeah,
first? Do I
yeah.
speak
How does
first?
it work? How
I
does it
hate
work?
that line. I
And
hate it.
I'm like,
It is an incredibly funny line.
yes.
I understand that. Any other movie gets in there, that's my favorite line of the movie.
Hmm.
It does not fit in Star Wars. It's just not that. It's just too
Modern. Like it's too
modern. It's
like
too
how.
2015. It's
Yes,
very 2015 of a
yes.
line.
It's very
And
of its time. It's very of
these
its time
Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker particularly feel like fan films, very high budget fan films.
because they are.
Last Jedi, I feel like Ryan Johnson nailed
Hmm.
everything revolving around the Force, how the Force works, why it's important, the way the whole mystical aspect of it. He pulled things directly from the expanded universe, like with Luke's pretending to be in one place when he's not.
Yeah.
That thing. They did that in the books. Now, granted, he wasn't like millions of miles away, but he was still like it was still a thing that he was able to do.
Hmm.
The only thing I didn't like was the whole Force FaceTime thing. I thought that was really stupid. Maybe it was just a visual. No, but it couldn't have been because that she took something from it. That
Yeah, yeah.
Force portals I thought was stupid, but otherwise, every other thing he did in that movie actually worked. Leia flying through space, totally a possibility. Like they do it in the freaking Force Awakens game or Force Unleashed game.
Hmm.
Like it's a thing that Jedi can do. If you're of a certain power, you can survive in the vacuum of space for a little bit of time. Did he make it look stupid and didn't execute it well? Sure. But like people losing their minds over it was idiotic to me. Like it's like that's not why you should be upset. You should be upset because they did X, Y, and Z as opposed to, anything else. Like I'm really weird about it.
No, 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 you're not.
I
It's
also didn't
fine.
like The Last Jedi, but all the reasons
Oh,
you didn't like it is not the reasons I didn't like it.
I was
Like
gonna
we are not
say,
the same.
be- because when you said like people focus on the wrong reasons, I thought you're gonna bring up the biggest. I always thought was the reason many people hated Last Jedi because they already had their own preconceived theories about. Oh, Rey is gonna be so and so's daughter, and and the Snoke's gonna be so and we're gonna, and and
Yeah.
then Ryan Johnson goes in, subverts all the expectations, like literally pretty much
Mhm.
all the people were wrong. Because
Yeah.
oh, who's Ray? No, she's nobody. She doesn't matter. But that's the kind of point about the Force, and I love that message. How like you have the end with the broomstick kid. It's
Yeah.
like Force shouldn't, and I don't think it was ever meant to be exclusive for Skywalker family only. Skywalker family
Yeah.
members and
The
Jedi's.
the
It's
understanding of the Force is so vastly skewed in the movies. Like, and people took such weird things. Like the fact that people got so upset about Broom Boy blew me away. I'm like, yeah, people can
what?
use the Force.
Yeah.
Like that's how it works. Everybody. Now I hate what Dave Filoni and the TV shows are doing now, where everyone can use the Force
Hmm.
because it was established that no, not everyone can use the Force. Not you can't just learn the Force if you try real hard.
Hmm.
It's a thing that only certain people can do, and George Lucas maybe for the detriment made it quantifiable by calling it midichlorians.
Yes.
But like realistically, that is it. Like I hated the fact that they turned Sabine into a Jedi
Hmm.
in or into a Force user in Ahsoka because up until that point, her character did not have any Force talent at all.
Hmm.
It was like they suddenly just changed it and then said, well, because she tried really hard. Like that's all it was. She just tried really hard. And it's like, no, you're now changing the fundamental rules of this world that has been created that you're now using for your own sandbox. Like this isn't a sandbox to play in. It is there are rules established, and if you break those rules, you stop being the thing that people came to see.
Yeah.
And I can understand why that would upset people. I personally, in terms of the Last Jedi, I think that the subversion of the expectations was great. Did I think that maybe Snoke should have been the incarnated version of Darth Plagueis? Yes, because it would have then connected all three trilogies. But but okay, fine, they didn't do that. The not a big deal. Story wise, it does make sense. Backtracking in the next movie and then saying, nope, none of that mattered. That was the
Yep.
most egregious thing they could have possibly ever done. Even if I wasn't a fan of most of what the other movies did, I can understand why, from a storytelling perspective, that is a stupid move. But like, yeah, it's the little details. Like people were getting so upset about Luke
Mm-hmm.
in and what Luke became, and a lot of them were basing it off of like my me and my brother got into it. Like Luke would never have tried to kill his nephew, and I said, "Well,
Mm-hmm.
hold up a minute. I could see it happening because in this universe, he didn't meet Mara Jade. He didn't fall in love. His Jedi Academy didn't look like it was all that great. It
Mm-hmm.
looked like the things that we were shown led me to believe that Luke went on a path that diverged from the original book stories of Luke and
Yeah.
how he was that guy. He was on that pedestal. He brought everyone back together. And like, well, what if something had happened in Luke's life in which we don't know what that is, but it broke him in a way that would make him make a mistake like that.
Mm-hmm.
There are 30 years between movies. There's no one to say that there's not a story to be told to explain Luke's fall. I can understand that. I don't love it. I hate what they did with Luke, but I can understand how he could have eventually gotten there through storytelling. But like people just jumped on it. It was like, that's not my Luke Skywalker. And I'm like,
Yep.
no, it's not. And they really should have stuck with the original idea of Luke Skywalker. But people live lives, shit happens, they make bad decisions sometimes. And that's the story that they decided to tell. So you kind of have to just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, that's why I say I think the thing that people get pissed off about in the movie is wrong. I think you're focusing on the wrong things. You
Mm-hmm.
need to focus on everything else around it that made it a very questionable movie. Like, why did we go to Harry Potter World for 40 minutes of the movie to ride on fantastic beasts and then reintegrate? Like I liked the idea, the concept of finding a person to help them who then turns out to be who just like turns on them, and it's like, whatever, I'm not actually a good guy. Like I
Mm-hmm.
like that idea. I think poorly executed to the nth degree. So like
I see.
it's
I don't think it was poorly executed because, like, when I saw it for the first time, yeah, that sequence of that one casino planet, I was like, "What is that about?" Like, like that kind of. But then, like, when you think about it, it's just thematically what Ryan Johnson did actually fits very well, and it's a nice, neat picture where, like,
yeah,
sometimes no matter what you do, you fail. Like, and that was the thing. Like, they spent
yeah.
40 minutes of the runtime. Eventually, they led to nothing, and it failed. But sometimes that's the Kobayashi Maru situation. No matter what
Mm-hmm.
you do, you fail. No matter how
Yeah,
hard you
lose
try, you
lose.
fail. Exactly. You lose. And sometimes that's the part of the mission. Sometimes the part of life. And like that's the same with with Luke's conversation with Ghost of Yoda. Like how they were burning the secret books, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, this it's not about the books. It's more about what you take from those books. It's about the
Exactly.
lesson, and so that's fine. I remember being kind of like I really really like Last Jedi, but I need to watch it again. And when I introduced my girlfriend to Star Wars, I've rewatched it obviously with her, and I was like, damn, I really love this movie because like
Mm.
now, years removed from that all that hype and all that
Yeah.
expectations and all that, and just watching it on its own without the previous movie, without knowing what happens after, because somehow Palpatine's returned, which is always
Somehow.
that's such a bad line that became such a great meme. I love it, but I
It
hate that
does.
line. It's just and like just watching on its own, it's easily the best of the sequel movies because of Brian Johnson,
Yeah.
and I just wish,
Beautiful, beautiful movie.
yeah,
Cinematography is
in
unmatched.
if any Star Wars movie should have had an Oscar nomination for like a cinematography, that it should have been it. This should have been
Exactly.
that one. Like that throne room scene, the red, and just how the
Hmm.
Kylo and Rey going up against those guards and how beautifully it was shot. Holy shit.
Yep.
Like no, honestly, like great movie. I just wish Disney had the balls to stick the landing and not
Yeah.
revert every single decision Ryan's made. And they're like, you know what? No, we're just just jokes, right, guys? We're still good.
Just kidding.
Like she's Palpatine. Like, see, she's not nobody. She's like Palpatine used to clap some cheeks, and like that's her grandmother. Ah, it's fine.
Yeah. Palpatine was also a man. Like,
Yes.
I mean, I don't hate that they made her a Palpatine. I actually kind of like thematically what that does. What I
Hmm.
hate is how she's now a Skywalker
Yeah.
and how people are like, "Oh, well, she took the name." I'm like, "No, that's not how that works."
Yeah.
Because
It's
now what
just.
you're doing is you're erasing the ability for her to ever wrestle with that in the future. If they bring Rey back, one
Hmm.
of the most interesting things about her is that she's a Palpatine
Hmm.
trying to be good when the rest of the galaxy hates her family line now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, she's a Skywalker. She's a Skywalker. That's all it is. She's a Skywalker.
It is.
I think
Yeah.
I think we spent too much time on this.
Is there any other hot movie take or
No, not really.
okay? All right.
Nothing
No,
else comes to mind.
I liked the
We covered the
discussion.
basics.
No, I liked it. It was a fun discussion. Okay, with that, I think we can move to the underrated part of this podcast, where I
Yeah,
ask you,
let's do it.
Nick, who do you think is the most underrated actor we have right now?
These I'm a little spicy, so
Ooh,
when I hear things like underrated, I my brain kind of breaks because it's like
okay.
underrated how?
I know.
Is it underrated for like do I think this person should be in more things? Do I think this person is not accoladed enough? Is this person an unknown? Like why
Hmm.
are they underrated?
Hmm.
I ultimately went with they should be in more things. People don't appreciate them for what
Okay.
they are. And my pick is LeVar Burton. Now, granted,
Oh.
one could say everyone knows and loves LeVar Burton. There's no way he's underrated. But like, what has he been in the
Hmm.
last several years that stands out to you as like, yes, he's in that?
Hmm. Hmm.
Nothing. If you're a Star Trek fan, he was in Star Trek Picard season 3, which is great. I love. I haven't even seen the show, but
Hmm.
that basketball show that he did like a brief appearance on that was on Disney Plus and Hulu. I forget what it was called, but there's a clip from it circling around the internet where he's essentially telling the guy about, because he plays himself, about how he keeps the chains from Roots on
Hmm.
his mantle to show who he is as a person, like, and how his black experience in the industry and in life has changed the way that he has to behave in public versus by himself and like what he does. And it's like one of the most powerful scenes I had ever seen coming off of he gave one of the most emotional performances in Star Trek Picard season 3 to the point where when the whole Kang the Conqueror Jonathan Majors thing came up and they were like, we got to get rid of this guy.
Hmm.
I was like LeVar Burton for Kang the Conqueror. He is such a deeply emotional actor with such gravitas, and he's everyone knows him and everyone loves him, and yet he never shows up in things. This should be a guy like Denzel Washington who you go to see his movies every year when they come out because you know you're going to get a great performance in a even if the movie isn't great, you're going to
Hmm.
get a great performance out of him. And I think it's just criminal that he's not in more things.
See, like you made me think about like, yeah, when was the last time I've seen him? Because I know of him. I still haven't seen most of the Star Trek shows, to be perfectly honest with you, so I'm lacking there. Like you have upper
Yeah.
hand on me because I know you're big into Star Trek. But like, yeah, like I don't remember the last time I've seen him in a movie. But I know, but to your point, I know how he looks like. I know who that dude is,
Yeah.
and by all accounts, seems like a great dude. So I would like to see him in more things.
Would love to see him in more things. It
That's
would be so great.
that's a good point. That's a, okay. I like
I'm ready.
the
Let's start the LeVar Assance now.
yes. I like the angle you're going with that. It's underrated. I like. No, all right. So let's hear our actress. Who do you think is the most underrated actress we have right now?
I'm sticking to theme. We're going with
Tell
another
me.
Star Trek actress.
Ah.
So the most underrated actress right now is Tawny Newsome. She is the voice of Beckett Mariner in Star Trek Lower Decks.
Mm-hmm.
She has just been hired. Well, a couple years ago, they hired her to be the one of the writers of the new Star Trek Starfleet Academy show that's coming out later this year. She is one of the funniest comedians and actors I've seen. She's only been in a handful of things. She was in that Space Force show on Netflix. She was just in a. She does a couple bit parts in movies from time to time, but like for the most part, she's an unknown.
Mm-hmm.
No, like I outside of the Star Trek community, I don't know anybody who actually would be able to point to a picture and go, I know who that is. Like, and she is so incredibly talented. She's so funny. She is a good actor as well. Like when she acts, she's also an actor. So, like, I'm just waiting. If she, I mean, she seems to be really into this writing gig with Star Trek. She's been talking about it nonstop. So hopefully, maybe she's more on the writing side of things. But like, I can't wait. Like anything she writes in or stars in next, I am there for. So I hope that she blows up. She is still relatively new, but it's been about 10 years since she hit the scene. I want to see more from her. I want to see her in everything, and I want her to be like the biggest star.
Yeah. I see. I had to look her up because I'm like, I don't even know if I know who that person is, to be fair. Because again,
Exactly.
I don't know.
Underrated.
I don't know I don't watch all the Star Trek shows. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at her and like, yeah, I've only seen her in a couple of things, and it's like mostly like TV shows where she appeared in like one episode
Hmm.
of like Two Bro Girls or one episode of like, Superstore. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh, okay, I cannot remember like her because obviously it's just one episode gig. But like I think I've seen her someplace, but yeah,
She was
okay,
most recently in that quiz show Quiz Ladies.
okay,
The movie with Aquafina and Sandra Oh? Is that her name?
yeah, that's her name, yeah.
Yeah, where they go on like the Jeopardy style game with Will Ferrell.
Ah, okay,
She Tawny Newsome was like in the movie. She showed up as like a pre like the person in charge of like the screenings to get
yeah,
into the thing, and then she was in the movie throughout after that. But yeah, just a small role,
mm-hmm,
comes in for a cup of coffee, is super funny while she's there, and then, moves on. And her biggest role to date is Star Trek Lower Decks. She was the main character of this animated show, and
mm-hmm.
then they brought her when they crossed over with Strange New Worlds. They brought her and Jack Quaid into live action as their characters, and she crushed it. She just absolutely crushed both the comedy and the more serious moments. Like she's great. I love her.
And apparently she is all cast also on Space Force. I don't know if you've seen
Yep.
it on Netflix. That's been on my radar for a while, but I still haven't gotten around to watching it.
I watched
So,
the first season. It's really fun.
okay.
I never got around to the second season because it took so long for that one to come out that
Yep.
I had forgotten about it by then. That's Netflix, baby.
I was gonna say describe Netflix without describing Netflix. Yes, that's just unfortunately. But no, like yeah, that's supposed to be pretty decent show. So that's been on my radar, and it's only
Yeah.
2 or 3 seasons, and it's done now. So might get around to that sooner rather than later. So that's always a good shout. So who do you think is the most underrated director we have right now?
This one was even harder because
Oh,
I came at it from two different directions.
mm-hmm,
Because the name I'm gonna say, you're gonna be like, what are you talking about? He has made the last 7 movies in a row
mm-hmm,
have been 5-star movies, some of the best movies ever made of all time. And
mm-hmm.
but yet he's never received a single award for, well, I don't know if he's never received any major awards for them. And this year looks like he might not even get the Oscar he should have been nominated for when Dune Part 1 came out, and that's
Ah,
Denis Villeneuve. I
mm-hmm.
think it's criminal that Dune, Arrival, uh,
Blade Runner
Blade Runner,
2049.
like those three alone he should be swimming in Oscars right now, and he
Mm-hmm.
has not a one to his name. Well, maybe he might have one, but I think maybe but not for
For
directing.
directing, yeah,
So
no, not for direct. I don't think he's won one for directing yet.
yeah.
Which that was one of the biggest crimes. Like in 2021, I remember, or 2022 Oscars when
Yeah.
Dune Part One won like 6 technical awards, right?
Hmm.
Like for best sound, best visual, best camera, all that, right? And then yet the person who was at the top, the director, was not even nominated.
Yep.
And
Well,
I
I
was
don't
like,
know if you
what?
know this, but the director actually doesn't have anything to do with those other things.
Apparently, no, yeah, apparently no. And everybody was like, oh yeah, thank you to Denis, thank you to Denis. I was like, everybody's like, oh, Denis, Denis,
Yeah.
Denis. And I'm like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, he's not
It's
even
so dumb.
nominated. Like, it just, what the fuck?
And in a year where there was a clear person to take out of the
I
thing, like that
cannot even
year,
remember
I
who
can't remember
was.
who it was, but I was saying it the whole season. I'm like,
Hmm.
you replace it with this. Denis takes this person's spot. Like
Hmm.
that movie was fine, but this is the person that does the nomination. Are you insane? And the fact that the Globes didn't nominate him for Dune Part 2 just now makes me very concerned come Oscar season if
Globes
he's
don't
going to get.
matter.
I know the Globes don't matter, but like it still concerns me.
And
Like, are we going to go that route?
you said you have a second one. Like,
I
is,
do. And
tell
I
me.
came up with this last night because my family, one of our favorite Christmas movies since it came out in 2019 has been Klaus. And the
Yes.
director, Sergio Pablos, it's the only thing he's ever directed. And now,
Mm-hmm.
granted, it was only, got to do math, only 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, maybe he doesn't want to direct anymore. He definitely has been working. He's got a ton of credits from the animation departments and stuff like that. But how amazing. You come in, you write and direct one of the best Christmas movies ever made.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
even I've seen it now a dozen times, still bawling like a baby at the end of it. And it's just the most beautiful movie, both from a story and direction perspective. Like the way that the animation works in the movie, just the beauty of how this is not your typical animation style,
Yep.
all the way down to the music choices, the the dialogue. He did it all. Like he is the reason this movie exists, and we have not seen his next project yet. To me, is criminal. And the fact that no, like, if I were to just say without mentioning Klaus, do you know who Sergio Pablos is? I guarantee you, every single person I talk to, except for maybe the most filmy of film nerds, would say nope.
Yeah,
And
I
so I
wouldn't.
think that's a crime.
See,
So
I wouldn't know who directed Klaus off the top of my head, and I love that movie. I'm 100% on your page. Like that. I think that's definitely like the next big Christmas classic in like 10 years time, where everybody should be watching this every Christmas. Go back on your Denis Villeneuve point. I looked up the nominations for that year. So it was the year Jane Campion won her Oscar for The Power of the Dog.
mm,
Kenneth Branagh, Belfast, Ryusuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car, Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza, and Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. I have my sneak who I would replace with Dune Villeneuve, Denis Villeneuve. Who would you replace? Let's get into this.
I don't want to because this might actually be a hot take.
Is that the winner?
Yes.
As a person who didn't get Power of the Dog, like,
I
yeah,
didn't get it. I didn't get it. And even after I saw it a second time, I'm like, okay, I get it, but I don't get it. Like, okay, sure. Yeah, it was a fine movie. I don't see what everyone is seeing from
same.
a direction standpoint. It was such a chalk movie. Like, it was so down the line regular.
Yes.
I feel like it maybe was just they wanted to award Jane Campion in a year after they were just trashed for being Oscar so white, full of men, that sort of thing. They wanted to, and I hate to say that because don't believe that, I do believe that, yes, Oscars are so white and they only do ever seem to really focus on the men. It is a problem. But like, I'm watching that movie multiple times going, I don't get it. I
Hmm.
don't get how this is the best. Like that would have, well, maybe Paul Thomas Anderson would have been the my bottom pick
That was actually
here.
mine. Like I
Licorice
look.
Pizza was us, but I feel like they're the same. Like
Yes.
they're two movies that really did not. I didn't. I really liked Licorice Pizza as
Hmm.
opposed to Power of the Dog, but between those two directors, one of them could have gone for Denis. Like blows my mind that Denis
100%.
Villeneuve didn't get a nomination that year
Hmm.
when they chose those two instead. But I feel like they went with prestige over.
Yes.
Like these people deserve the Oscar. And I'm like,
Hmm.
do they deserve it? Or, did they make movies that anyone could have made? Like,
Yeah, I've look, I've yet to rewatch The Power of the Dog because I've only watched it one time and I'm like, okay, I
yeah,
get it, but I don't get why I'm supposed to love it. Like I got
exactly.
I saw it's not just about the ending, but I saw the ending from miles away. I'm like, how is that like a surprise? How is that like some sort of twist? I don't understand this, right? Like you
Yeah.
can tell what's gonna happen from miles away, and it's just that kind of like story. But again, like it's competently shot. I'm not
Hmm.
like made. I'm not gonna deny that. But at the same time, is this like Oscar material in a way where we have Belfast, Drive My Car, West Side Story, which is kind of
Hmm.
sneaky excellent, like in the
Yeah.
way
Oh
it's
my gosh.
directed. That was never supposed to be that great of a movie as it was. And then yeah, and to have not and like and Licorice Pizza, I had the same issue. I wrote something like this feels like you had to be there movie to fully enjoy it, and I've never grew up in LA in the 1960s, 70s. So my problem with that movie that just and again, PTA has much better movies to his name. So I feel like, one of them probably like the
Mhm.
new villainy between yeah, especially for Dune, especially for
Yeah.
filming the unfilmable and actually putting it to the screen where we were looking forward to the part two.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I'm just gonna say, yeah, I think he was short-shifted, and I'm hoping this time, this time around, he at least snatches that nomination for Dune Part Two.
Hopefully. Fingers
But yeah,
crossed.
I know the next one is hard because there are so many movies. But do you have one or two you would want to shout out as like underrated, underseen, maybe?
Yes, I have one that is I pulled my letterboxd again. I'm like, let's go through my top 200 and see
Hmm.
what movies are high on my list that are generally rated low by everyone else.
Okay.
And the one that is rated the lowest,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna talk about because it's another Star Trek movie. But the
Nice.
second lowest, I know, is more derided than I think it deserves. Ghostbusters 2.
Okay.
I love Ghostbusters 2. It is, to me, an adequate sequel
Hmm.
to one of the best comedies of all time. Like
Hmm.
most comedies, they get sequels. The sequels are just dog trash.
Hmm.
This one, I don't understand why people hate it so much. It's so funny. It's got a 3.2 on Letterboxd, a 6.6 on IMDb, a 55% rotten critic score, and a 61% just barely fresh audience score in
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes. To me, that's wild. It's at least better than those numbers would indicate. And talk to anybody, everyone hates this movie. They act like it's the worst movie to ever be made in a franchise. And I'm just like, no, it's so funny. It's not nearly as serious as the first one, but
Hmm.
it's a solid movie, a decent story. It brings back all your favorite characters. It gives us new jokes. It doesn't rehash any of the jokes from the original. Like it does its own thing in a fun way, and I think that it's just criminal that everyone hates it. Like I've always loved it, and there's a bit of a nostalgia thing for me. But
Hmm.
like, even I try and watch it objectively, like I can see why some people might not like certain elements of it, but like to deride it the way that they do, it's just so weird to me. So like, Ghostbusters 2, man, give it a second chance if you haven't.
You are talking to a correct person because I actually kind of like the movie too.
Yay!
I never understood the hate for it, and I'll go as far as to say when I was very little and I got introduced to both Ghostbuster 1 and 2, because at the
Yeah.
time there were only those two. I thought the second one was better because it is funnier, right? It's
Mm.
less, as you said, it's less serious. It's actually more like a cracking jokes. Obviously, as you rewatch it, you discover, oh, that's why it's not as good as the first one. The
Yeah.
first one has something more.
Oh yeah, it doesn't even touch the first one,
Yes,
but
but
it's
it's
not
not
what
as
people say.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I never like. I genuinely think there's like the people I hang around with. like they are probably such a unique people because I never heard anybody thinking like this is such a like worst piece of shit movie of ever. Like because again, like everybody on the internet seems to hate it. Like
Yeah,
actually
I have a
hate it.
theory actually.
Tell
I
me.
think I know why.
Mm,
So, for a long time, if you asked me growing up, I don't like Ghostbusters 2 very much.
mm-hmm.
It scared me a little. It was a little scarier, I
Yep.
thought.
Yep.
Vigo freaked me out. Like a lot of the ghost things kind of were creepier.
Yes.
So as a kid growing up, I thought I didn't really enjoy it all that much to watch it. I love the first one, so I'll just watch the first one constantly. So it wasn't until like late high school, early college that I even like if I was gonna put in a Ghostbusters movie, I always put in the first one. I didn't watch both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I turned on, I just for fun, we watched both Ghostbusters movies back to back one night. And I couldn't believe how many jokes go over your head when you're 6, 7, 8 years old
Yep. Yep.
and you're watching this movie, like when Egon looks at Venkman and goes, I like because he wants to figure out where the ghost is coming from. He's like, I'd like to give the mother a gynecological exam. And Venkman goes, who wouldn't?
Yeah, who wouldn't?
And I'm just like, that is a joke that as a child I would never have gotten. But as a preteen, teenager, almost adult, holy shit, that's really funny. Like
Mm-hmm.
just the level of jokes are in the movie are go over the kids' head jokes. They are a
Yep.
little bit more, I wouldn't say sophisticated, but they're a little bit more
Adult.
you gotta be adult. You gotta know. If you know, you know. And
Yes.
that's what it has. So I think my theory is that most people who don't like it as much as they don't like it watched it as a kid, did not get it, and never revisited it.
Hmm.
And they just sit there and oh, I hate Ghostbusters 2. It was terrible. They're going based off of their memory of the bullet points of the movie, and they haven't actually really experienced it again. I know that's not true for everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why it is as derided as it is, because it never got the second chance it deserved, because I
Mm-hmm.
think as an adult, people would dig it a lot more.
Okay, that's an interesting theory. I see where you coming from that. Okay, like I never thought about it like that. That's a fascinating angle, actually. Hmm. No, but like, this podcast, we are not a defenders per se, but definitely more of a on a positive side of, hey, Ghostbusters, especially with the movies that have come out
Oh yeah.
since the 2016, the
I
latest Frozen Empire.
yeah. Oh my God. I was a staunch defender of Afterlife. Like, I
Yes,
know it does it I know why it has problems. Like,
yes,
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 100% they went way too heavy into the memories as a response to 2016.
correct.
They overcorrected. But like at the end of the day, I thought it was a for the most part touching story that was a good reintroduction into this world. I had
Yes.
such high hopes for Frozen Empire, but it was such dog shit that I just it actually makes me dislike Afterlife more. Like I was a defender of Afterlife, but after Frozen Empire, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was looking at it through nostalgia glasses and not letting it be what it because Frozen Empire was so bad. It's
Like
my least favorite movie of the year. I hated it.
like Frozen Empire to me, like I don't think it's bad. I think it's like the most average movie you'll ever see, and that somehow is worse because
Yeah,
it's one
that's
of those
okay. So
movies
offensive.
you forget you watched. Like for
And
example,
it's a
this
Ghostbusters movie. It shouldn't be.
exactly. Like for example, the movie itself forgets that the what's his name, Will, what's from
Bill
Stranger.
Murray?
No, no, no,
Or
Will.
oh, Bill Acaster.
Yeah,
Or
from
no.
Stranger Things. Oh
Oh,
no,
I know who
Finn
you're talking about.
Wolfhard. Finn
Finn
Wolfhard.
Wolfhard.
Yeah, he's not Will, he's Finn. Duh. So
Yeah.
that's my brain.
No, I'm sorry.
The movie itself forgets he's in the movie until like the very end, and I'm like,
Yeah.
where did he go? I was like, oh yeah, because they didn't know what to do with him, and they're
They
like,
didn't know what to do with it. They just wanted the big name to put in the
yes,
movie because
yes,
everybody loves Stranger Things. And
uh,
I have a theory that they completely, so it's a Sony movie.
yes.
And Sony post pandemic, to even today, has had a terrible problem with re-editing their movies in the editing bay.
Oh, tell me about it.
so
Yeah.
terrible. Like it's so clear to me that Ghostbusters Afterlife was probably a 2.5 hour movie that they cut an entire story arc with Finn Wolfhard completely out of the movie.
Hmm.
They did the same thing with Venom Let There Be Carnage. Like you could tell that was a 2.5 hour movie that they stripped down to make it 90 minutes. Like it's so wild to me that Sony keeps doing it and nobody really notices. I'm like, it's so clear that they're cutting their movies to death and then putting them out so that they're shorter. Like, I don't
Well,
know.
they did the same or similar thing to Madame Web. Like, and
Yeah,
that's why Dakota Johnson was like trashing it as she was promoting it, because
yeah.
the movie, if it, like I remember talking about it on another podcast with Shane Conto, with our friend Shane, and I even mentioned that like if you read what she signed up for, like Terminator like stories where these spider ladies are protecting unborn Peter Parker, that sounds
Hmm.
fucking awesome. The movie
Yeah.
we've gotten is not
It's
that
not
at
that.
all.
Yeah.
And it's just like
Oh my gosh, it's so weird.
Sony, man. It's just they don't know what to do with anything. Like, Ghostbusters, but it's, like their MCU like universe. Like,
Hmm.
oh, we are part of MCU, but not really. Just
Oh yeah, they literally told Sydney Sweeney she was going to be in the MCU,
yeah.
and then everyone was like, "Oh honey, no, you're not."
I'm sure that was a part of probably Tom Hardy's deal. I'm sure Tom Hardy was like, okay, I'll join MCU, why not? And then like he joined for a brief moment, and then he didn't, and like that's
Hmm.
how the last
Well,
Venom
yeah.
starts, where they like pull back, like, yeah, this was fucking weird, and I'm like, okay, we're done with MCU, cool.
Oh my God. Sony has been just awful for
Yeah.
the fact that they own Spider-Man. They've had Marvel's balls in a vice ever since their original contract ended and they had to
Yes.
renegotiate. Like
Yes.
they think they are the cool they are the Dwight Schrute of the movie industry. They're like
Correct.
we're the assistant manager of the Marvel universe and Kevin Feige's looking at him going assistant to
Yes.
the MCU. Like we are borrowing Spider-Man because we have to. You think that you're part of us and you are not. Like, and I hate it.
I've made this point in a previous episode that hasn't been released when this one is being shot. So I'll make the same point. I genuinely wish Sony just takes a stock of what they've done now when their MCU like universe is officially over, and says, you know what, we've tried. Kevin Feige, give us a number, and if the number is good enough, we'll sell you all the rights to Spider-Man, all the other creatures within that universe. You can have them for a price, because
Yeah,
as
they need to do
even
that.
if MCU is not at the peak, I would still trust them and the people involved within MCU to do Sinister Six correctly, to do
Yep.
Spider-Man correctly, to do
Yep.
maybe even Madame Web or something like that properly, and
Yeah.
reintroduce them to their movies. They should have proper chance, or rather than this
Yeah.
is a one failed experiment, but since we have it shot, we'll push back the release date 5 times, but we'll finally get released like Craven the Hunter. It's that's a movie that was supposed to come out like a year ago,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That
and it
was
finally came
it's
out.
been it was rescheduled like 6 times.
Yep,
I'm just like, gee, what a surprise that it's terrible. Oh my God, they're
insane.
really riding the coattails of Spider-Verse so hard. It's not even funny.
Correct.
The I this is how I knew immediately that Sony had lost all control was No Way Home. Like
Mm,
I am very hot take. I don't like No Way Home very much.
okay.
It's middle of the pack for me. If I ranked MCU, much to Mike's detriment, he hates the fact that I'm just like it's terrible. Um, and the reason is because it's so derivative of Spider-Verse.
Hmm.
It's let's just do that again and not be creative with it. And then right after that, after the success of that movie and how Andrew Garfield got his like moment in the sun, how they didn't immediately course correct their stupid non-Spider-Man Spider-Man universe to say, you know what, Marvel, you can have Tom Holland.
Hmm.
You keep Tom Holland, do whatever you want with him. Our movies are going to be Andrew Garfield led movies. Like, bring Andrew Garfield back, let him interact with Tom Hardy's Venom, let him interact with Craven the Hunter and Morbius and Madam Web. Let him be that universe's Spider Man. You have yours, we have ours, we'll be separate. We don't
Yeah.
care. We've introduced the idea of the multiverse, so people will not be confused that there are two Peter Parkers now. Like the fact that they didn't immediately make that their number one priority, how many years later now, 5 years later now, is wild to me. And to me, that says take it away. They should be
Yeah.
not allowed to have it anymore. It should be court mandated that Sony give up Spider-Man.
It's it is yeah, again what they've done with we started talking about Ghostbusters, now we're talking about the Spider-Man.
Right?
I love it. But like but to your point, correct. Like what they've done with this franchise and this, and Ghostbusters and all the other projects they've had their like, fingers in, it's it's sad. It's sad. You've tried, like you need to admit defeat and move on. Sell it for a decent enough price. Focus on making cameras. Focus on making things you're actually good at. And just don't like, don't do that. Anyway, um, is there any TV show you would shout out as underrated?
I was looking. It's a lot harder to do because I don't utilize serialized, but
Hmm.
I came up with one that I thought would be underrated just solely because every time I bring it up to anybody, they've never heard of it or seen it.
Okay.
But I went on Rotten Tomatoes. It has like a 98% both critic and audience score. Like this is not underrated. Everyone, it is properly rated. It is an amazing show that I think everyone should watch. I just think it's underseen.
Okay.
But I'm gonna stick with it, and that is the show Brockmire, starring Hank Azaria. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
Don't think so. No.
This show,
How
it was
old is
part of
this?
the reason. It's several years old now. I would say
Okay.
about 10 years old maybe. It came out in the 20 teens,
Hmm.
but it was 4 or 5 seasons.
Hmm.
Shorter seasons, half-hour comedy style show. Hank Azaria is a baseball announcer, very famous baseball announcer who essentially gets canceled because he says something incredibly terrible live on air while
Uh-oh.
during like a major league baseball game, and it
Hmm.
tanks his career.
Okay.
This is the very first episode. He then gets hired, like it's been a year or two. He gets hired by like a like AAA ballpark
Hmm.
to be just the announcer for the ballpark. And he's a drunk. He is just the most cynical human being ever. And Amanda Pete is the owner of the club who hires him to do
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
And or she's I don't know, she's in charge. And it's essentially just a comedy about him getting off the wagon or getting on the wagon. I don't know what the word. Stop drinking, be a better person, like find himself again. And it's some of the funniest, sharpest comedy I have ever seen in my entire life. It has amazing moments that are just like it touches the emotional side of things from time to time, but
Hmm.
just for the most part, it's just super sharp, witty comedy that is laugh out loud hilarious. They've got great runners. They've got great like callbacks, very reminiscent in comedy style to like Arrested Development, in the way
Okay.
that they would set something up early and then you would completely forget about it, and then the payoff when it showed up would be like, oh my God, I couldn't believe that they brought that back around. And
Ah.
just the comedy of errors that would occur in the show. It's so funny. I highly recommend, if it's available to stream for you, move it to the top of your list. You will not be sorry. It Not every season is a banger, but for the most part, they are A+ to A- show. Just each season is super fun.
I see how it is. So I had to look it up because I've never heard of it. So I would imagine that is underrated. And one of the
Yeah.
stars is Tawny Newsome. I'm like, oh, she's a face
She does show up in it. Yes, she
I
does.
recognize. So I see the team. I see no, but like, yeah, it's very nicely rated. Only 3 seasons, seems like,
Okay,
based on
three.
IMDb. Oh, four. Sorry, four.
Okay.
So, but yeah, no, it's finished. It's finished in
Yeah.
2020. So 32 episodes. That
Yep.
seems like something that's easy,
Oh, it's such an
manageable.
easy breeze to go through. It's such an
Okay.
easy show to watch. You'll be done with it before you know it. It's one of those shows that I've been meaning to do a rewatch since I watched it the
Mhm.
first time. There's always something new. It's like it was.
Tell me about it. It's
Yeah.
just like, like even with movies, like, you're like, oh, I haven't watched this. I should probably rewatch this movie. It's been a minute. And then do I justify it because I haven't seen so many great movies that just came out, or even from like 70s, 60s, whatever, and it's just like, oh, like, but no, yeah, okay, I'll definitely like check it out because it seems awesome, and I love me some Amanda Peet. Talk about underrated actress. I feel
Yeah,
like she
she is.
used to be kind of on an uprise in Hollywood a bit, where like she would appear in like blockbusters and big movies and mainly comedies. But lately, I haven't seen her in forever,
Yeah,
and she's funny. Like
she is great.
she is a great actress. So like if
Mhm.
she's there, like I'm also there. So hey, well, Nick, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for your time. Before I've asked you so many questions, and you've been kind and patient enough to answer all of them. So genuinely thank you.
Oh,
Before we
you're
say
welcome.
goodbye, do you have any question or questions for me?
I did have a few, but since we have been going long, I'll just ask the one that's most important.
Tell me.
It's a two-parter, so we'll go a little long. Um, if you were a Muppet, which
Ooh.
Muppet would you be? And then,
Hmm.
what piece of literature or movie do you think should be remade by the cast of the Muppets, a la Muppet Christmas Carol or
Yeah, yeah.
Treasure Island, that sort of thing?
Okay, I'll probably my answer will be disappointing because I didn't grow up with Muppets. I've only seen two Muppet movies, so I I just rewatched the Muppets Christmas Carol because that's a great movie.
Classic.
And what's the name of the Rizzo the Rat?
Rizzo the Rat, nice.
I kind of like
Love
Rizzo. Like
Rizzo.
I
Rizzo's the
feel like
best.
chill little dude. Like like yeah, kind of knows what's going on, kind of doesn't. And I'm like, that's kind of me. I sympathize with him. So like that's my uneducated answer as somebody who has only seen two Muppet movies. And I do need to actually watch them all like next year. That's on my list.
Nice.
And the property, it's not my idea, but I really like somebody said like Knives Out or some sort of like who done it, but with Muppets.
Hmm, that would be
Even
fun.
even as far as to say somebody's don't know who tweeted this, but like bring Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc and kind of like Muppet Christmas Carol, where he's the only human and he
Hmm.
interacts with them like straight dead on, like he never lets go. He does full on Shakespeare with Muppets, and it's who done it, right?
That would be amazing.
I genuinely think there would be like comedy gold, like gold, because I just like that's such a great idea. And again, not my idea. Like I've seen
Hmm.
someplace, and
I
and
saw
more
that
I
one
thought
too.
about
I
it.
was very much
Yes,
pushing, like, yeah, make the third Knives Out movie a Muppet movie where
yes.
Benoit Blanc is on a new mission, but this time it's with the Muppets. Like, that would be great.
Or because we obviously are both into like Star Wars, Star Trek, all that. Like imagine a Star Wars movie with Muppets. Again, maybe one human character. Doesn't have to be Luke. It can be anybody. Ray, let's say Ray, right? Like a new character, but everybody else is Muppet.
Hmm.
It might be very dumb. It might work. I don't know. But like Muppets in space. Did they not do Muppets in space?
They did do Muppets in Space,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
the title is a bit of a misnomer. They didn't actually go to space.
Ah.
Gonzo finds out he's an alien and that his people are from space, and so he tries to spend the movie trying to call them back to Earth.
So
And
it's like an ET kind of
yeah,
spoof.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
it's it's more like that.
Mm.
My wife's favorite Muppet movie,
Hmm.
which I do not understand because it's actually one of my least favorites,
I
but
see. Which one is your
opposites
favorite?
attract. My favorite is Muppets Christmas Carol. But if I were to, that also holds the Christmas rank too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside of Muppet Christmas Carol, it's Muppet Treasure Island. I think that movie is just so phenomenal. It's hilarious. Tim Curry is a gem of a
Hmm.
person, and he knew the assignment. He got it right away.
Okay.
He's almost a Muppet himself in the movie, and it's just
Hmm.
super fun. And I think they should be doing more stuff like that, where they take an old piece of literature and insert Muppets, insert comedy, make it a fun story, but like it's a familiar story, so it'll do well.
Yes.
And the
You
fact
know the
that Disney
beats.
owns them and
Yeah.
has a huge movie collection at their disposal, boy, would it be fun if you made spoof comedies with the Muppets based on existing movie IPs. Like, that'd be amazing.
Speaking of Disney owning Muppets and what they have in a catalog, I was just thinking about a different answer, and I just, something stuck in my mind. It probably would be too out there, but like Die Hard with Muppets.
Die Hard with
Like
Muppets would be amazing. Would be amazing
like Bruce
because
Willis's
they
son or
wouldn't
somebody.
kill people in it. It
Yes.
would be funny because then they didn't have to make jokes about like how they're actually killing people and not really, but like there's such creative comedy to be
Hmm.
had, especially if you take an R-rated uh property and adapt it for like a PG audience.
Yes.
It's such a interesting concept that I it annoys me to no end that no one's doing it. And I know the reason is money because to create something like that is gotta be expensive because you
Hmm.
have to then make sets that both human actors and puppeteers can operate on. And it hurts because it's like Disney, come on, man, you're just sitting on a gold mine. People love the Muppets.
And it's not like they have money to burn. Like it's
Yeah.
it's only Disney. Like come
They just
on,
made
like
Moana 2 and made more money than they deserved. I feel like they could take some of that and make it Muppet thing, put it into the Muppets.
yeah. Any other question for me?
I think that's it. I think
All right.
I took up enough of your time.
Oh no, greatly appreciated. Genuinely, like Nick, it's been such a blast. I thank you so much for your time. Like genuinely, greatly
Anytime.
appreciated. If people enjoyed you, where can they find you? What's the best place to follow you?
I am on social media, pretty much every social media outlet at Jagged2319, Star
Hmm.
Wars reference.
Nice,
And then I also have a podcast that I co-host with Mike Hilty. It's called Geeks Speak Louder Than Nerds. We do TV rewatches and sometimes movies. We just recorded Lord of the Rings War for the Rohirrim with our friend Robert, and we're gonna be finishing up. I just finished writing out the script. We're going to record our final episode for Star Trek Lower Decks tonight. That will air
nice.
next Wednesday. And then we're going to be moving on into some random stuff, catch up
Hmm.
movies, TV shows, that sort of thing. Hopefully, you'll be a guest on one of them. And
Anytime.
we'll have plenty to do between January and February. And then we're going to kick off Daredevil Born Again as our next big
Mm.
series to tackle. So we've got a lot coming down, and we've been doing this for a year. So we've got Loki season 2, Ahsoka, other movies and TV shows that you might like. So if you want to listen to those, we'd
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Those links will be in the description below. So again, thank you so much for your time. And look, I'll be there if you want me on one of your episodes. I'll be there. Just give me a shout. You know where to find me.
I would love it.
Thank you. For as far as me, in movies lost on Letterboxd, lostinmovies.co.uk for my blog. Here every other Friday. And as always, this podcast is part of SPDM Crew Podcast Media. Special thanks goes to High Flyer Creative for designing my logo. If you want to see what else they have happening, visit highflyercreative.com. And that's all. So until next time, bye bye.